determined on that date when it is said that it is a protected monument.
In a major development, the Enforcement Directorate conducted fresh raids across 6 locations in Jharkhand and Bihar. The raids were in connection with a illegal mining case relating to which the ED had arrested suspended IS officer Pooja Singhal. In 2 separate incidents, the BSF apprehended 2 smugglers with 74 gold biscuits, 3 gold bars at the India-Bangladesh border in Parganas district of West Bengal. As per police reports, the total weight of the gold is around 11 kgs. Vinay Saxena has been appointed the new Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. He was earlier at the helm of the Khadi and Village Industries Commission. Himachal Pradesh's Lahore Spiti Valley witnessed a fresh spell of heavy snowfall, bringing respite from the scorching heat wave in the hills. Meanwhile, the Lahore Spiti District Administration has issued a warning to tourists, asking them to avoid venturing to snowbound areas. That's it then from me. I'll see you next on the Newshour agenda. It's over to Rahul Shivshankar for India Front.
Thanks indeed, Padmaja. Yes, the big story, viewers. We're sticking with our exposés on the truth behind the Gyanvapi dispute. Viewers, on May 26, the district court in Varanasi will be hearing pleas by the Muslim side challenging the survey of the Gyanvapi complex and, most importantly, seeking a setting aside of any attempt to lay claim to the Gyanvapi mosque complex. But viewers, while the court hears the matter, Times Now has accessed documents that prove that there is a motivated design to bury the truth and deny Hindus of their rights, viewers. Rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution. What are we talking about, viewers? If last evening Times Now unearthed an affidavit dating back to 1936 stating that Gyanvapi is not a mosque, then today, viewers, we have accessed a Gazette notification filed by the Congress government in Uttar Pradesh in 1965 that admits that the Vishwanath temple, the Kashi Vishwanath temple that held one of the 12 Jyotirlings, was demolished by Aurangzeb. Viewers, this is the document I am talking to you about. This document that you can now see right here on my desk. This particular document, viewers, makes it extremely clear to all of us, to each one of us, what the Congress itself attested to. It said on April 9th, 1669, Aurangzeb issued order to the provincial governor for the demolition of Hindu temples and schools, which the Faujdar of Varanasi carried out by pulling down a number of temples in the city, including those of Vishwanath and Bindhu Madhava. Very important. A mosque was built on the site of each 2 high minarets, being built on one. Aurangzeb also renamed the city Muhammadabad, and coins issued from the mint here also bear his name. Now, viewers, this is very, very important. What are we seeing? We are seeing crazy attempts right now, viewers, to denigrate. And I use the word crazy because they are nonsensical. To denigrate Hindu symbols in the way of proving one point, that there was never any temple, any sign of a Hindu claim to the Gyanvapi mosque or the land on which it was built. And therefore, viewers, we are going to have a protracted court battle. They're even opposing the survey. But this document, this Gazette notification issued by the Sucheta Kriplani government in the 60s in Uttar Pradesh tells you, viewers, that a whole deliberate design is being played out to deny Hindus their claim, and that, quite frankly, even a survey is not needed. If this was a Congress Gazette notification, then, viewers, let me point out to you another document. The second excerpt is even more important. This focuses on an affidavit that was filed, viewers, in 1935 by the British state itself. And what did it say, viewers? It goes on at great length to tell you a large number of facts. It tells you, viewers, over a period of many years, an ascertainment was done. This particular case was brought by Deen Muhammad, Muhammad Hussain and Muhammad Zakaria. What do they want? They wanted this particular contested land, this disputed land, to be declared a Waqf property. Now, viewers, why in 1936 would these individuals want to have this particular land consecrated as a Waqf property? After all, mosques are always built on Waqf property, on consecrated land, because in Islam, a mosque that is built on falsely occupied land does not have sanctity. It cannot be a place of prayer. It can only be a structure. I'm not saying it. This particular affidavit says it. These are the written statements. Deen Muhammad and others versus Secretary of State for India in Council. Viewers, defendants here, the plaintiffs, filed in the court of the subordinate judge, Banaras Civil Suit 62 of 1936. Please go and check. What does it says? It says it is denied that the said plot was ever in possession of the plaintiffs or any other Muslim. And viewers, it talks about the entire plot of land on which the mosque, Pakka courtyard, stray grave, staircase in front of gate, together with Pakka enclosures all around and a peepal tree stand belong to government and has never been dedicated, nor could have been dedicated to the mosque. Very significant. This is all very significant. This document goes on to say it is submitted that non-Muslims have been using the land for their religious purpose as a matter of right and have got a right of way over it. The allegation that they were permitted by persons in charge of the mosque is unfounded and baseless. The land in question was never stamped with the character of Waqf land. It was never, viewers, a mosque to begin with. Aurangzeb himself was not the owner of the site in which the old temple of Vishwanath existed and which was demolished by Aurangzeb owing to religious antipathy. Hence, it could not have been dedicated according to the true spirit of the Muhammadan faith. Viewers, this tells you that there is something very wrong, that there is an elaborate attempt to block the truth and mock Hindus. Why, viewers? That's the fundamental question. Why? Why? Are we going to now see this entire matter, like it was in the Ayodhya Ram Janam Bhoomi issue, being strung through India's tardy judicial process? And do Hindus have to wait to rightfully claim what has been accepted on record, not once, twice, and maybe in more iterations, viewers, by not just the British, but also Congress governments? Why today is the Congress party, the MIM, the Samajwadi party, all the new rulers, and of course, the new generations of Congress people denying this? Why? Is there some orchestrated conspiracy? I want to open this up, and I want to begin with Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, Tanveer Ahmed. Let me get them into the picture. Abbas Haider, Mohandas Pai and Sanju Verma are there also on the debate. Tehseen Poonawalla, I am now quoting straight out of a Congress Gazette notification. Congress Gazette notification, I use the word Congress with deliberation because it's a Congress government in the 60s that filed this particular Gazette notification. Why today, after admitting that this was an act of deliberate desecration by Aurangzeb, are we today denying all these facts?
So good evening, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on this show. And thank you for this Gazette notification that you've quoted, and rightly so called it the Congress Gazette notification. This proves one thing for sure, that the Congress isn't anti-Hindu, as is a perception that's always obviously attempted to be made by the BJP in particular. So we now know the Congress is not anti-Hindu. What we need to go to is just one single thing. What is the Lakshman Lekha drawn? The 1991 POW Act says very specifically that, listen, except for the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid dispute, all other acts, there will be status quo of the issue as that existed on 15th August 1947. Now you may quote from a Gazette of 60s, but after that came an act that the Supreme Court in its wisdom, in its written judgment, has said that it's the basic structure of a constitution. I end with one submission to you, Rahul, today. Sanjay Verma is the BJP spokesperson here. Please ask her, for everything wrong that the Congress has done, 6 years of Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, 8 years of Narendra Modi ji, change the POW Act right now. Let it change the act, amend it, and take over what you want to take over. Why aren't you doing it? You know why they aren't doing it? Because once they amend this act, I'll just take one line more. Once they amend this act, there'll be thousands of claims. So they're deliberately sparking, putting kerosene and trying to create a situation in a country where there is smoke. They don't realize how bad they're making the situation because they have nothing to talk on the economy.
Mr. Poonawala, you stretch the envelope from one end to the other, from the economy to Astha, but okay. I want to come back to you on one particular small point. Yes, of course, the act can be repealed. Of course it can happen. But then we know that a party that talks about democracy all the while and about the death of it in India, in Cambridge, in the UK, etc., without actually practicing any democracy within its own ranks, that's a separate matter altogether. Viewers will then charge forth and say, murder. Murder is being committed because Mr. Modi is a majoritarian-minded politician.
Perhaps. Let me accept your point.
So one second. Let me
hypothetically ask.
So let me just say.
Okay. Sure.
Till 1992, and this is a fact, Hindus were allowed to worship at the Gyanvapi mosque complex. You know this, it's an established fact. Daily prayers were offered. The Congress comes in with this 1991 Act. Its state governments that are close to it decide that, look, we are going to deny the Hindus this practice. Suddenly, arbitrarily, they are told after 1992 you can't pray. Once a year you can go there on the holiest day of the year. All you need to do is to prevail upon the Muslim committee to stop. And the matter will go. All the Hindus are wanting, they're not wanting to build a masjid, a mandir there, sir. They're not wanting to bring it down. They're only wanting a right to pray. What is it about Hindus that bothers Tehseen Poonawala and the Congress party so much, especially a party that is going to be led by a Shiv Bhakt?
Nothing about Hindus. You're a Hindu, and I have a lot of respect and love for you. Nothing about Hindus bothers me. My wife is a Hindu, and I spend my life with her. So nothing about Hindus bothers me or the Congress. But what I can tell you is, even if I were to assume both of your points, point number one, is Mr. Modi, the most powerful prime minister in the world, so scared of Rahul Gandhi?
I'm only talking about, let's not get rhetorical.
No, I'm not getting rhetorical.
Here are the facts. I'm only asking, why does the Congress party oppose the Hindu claim over the Gyanvapi mosque complex after conceding to it? It's a very simple question. And I have several Congress leaders who are saying that this is wrong.
Okay, why? I'm going to give you two simple answers. Number one, why doesn't the Adityanath government, since state governments can allow pujas, allow for puja? Why is it stopped? Why is it 5 years? So was Adityanath anti-Hindu? Number two, let's assume Rahul Gandhi is anti-Modi ji. Why is Modi ji so scared of Rahul Gandhi from passing a law in parliament?
Okay. Let me try to get the answer out of Tehseen Poonawala by asking him two more questions.
Okay.
Sir, from which constituency is Rahul Gandhi an MP from?
Wayanad in Kerala.
What is the population of Muslims in Wayanad?
Majority are Hindus.
Rahul, why are we talking
Majority
about
are
No,
Rahul
one
Gandhi?
second, Tanveer Ahmed, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why the Shiv Bhakt in Rahul Gandhi cannot appreciate the point of view of Shiv
Because you
Bhakts.
want to have an anti-Congress
And
debate,
let me tell you,
please have it.
I'll come to the
Why do you want
JDS
to
also,
really
don't
call
worry.
us?
I'll come
And
to
if
you,
you
you'll
want to
have
have
your
an
turn.
anti-Congress
Tanveer
debate,
Saab, why are you
do you want
shouting
to
over me?
call us?
I never asked you the question. Why are you answering
no.
for
If it
Tehseen?
is about Rahul
Tehseen
Gandhi,
Poonawalla is
if it is
intelligent
about Rahul
enough. He's a
Gandhi,
very
why do you
bright
want to
man.
call us?
He has been handpicked to be part of this debate. We have not just invited any old, Joe Blow. This is Tehseen Poonawalla. Tehseen Poonawalla, who represents very articulately the Congress party position every night. Let him, he speaks for himself. He's an adult. You don't have to tutor him. You don't have to fight his battles. He picks his battles. He's like Arjun and he fights them. Now, Tehseen Poonawalla, my simple question to you is this. Is it appeasement that is holding a Shiv Bhakt back from not recognizing all these facts that the Congress party and its governments have attested to?
May I ask you a counter question?
Yeah,
is the fear of Rahul Gandhi put Mr. Modi in a position that he cannot change the law of POW 1991? Is the fear of Rahul Gandhi that Adityanath ji cannot give more permission? Let's put our money where our mouth is, Rahul Gandhi, on your shows and your debates. You have often said that the Congress and Rahul Gandhi are fast heading towards irrelevance. If they are, why is Mr. Modi, the most powerful Prime Minister in the world, so scared to change the act? You know why he can't do it? He can't do it because it's a basic structure of our constitution. And Mr. Modi knows it, the lawyers know it, and you know it.
Okay. Sanju Verma, go ahead. I never knew that Parliament, whether it makes a law which is in tune with the basic structure, can't impugn the same law. Of course it can. Of course it can. And let me tell you, viewers, one particular government to appease Muslims did it. The Rajiv Gandhi government.
Exactly. Rahul, first and foremost, I have a little bit of grouse. I think Tehseen today has been showered with so much in terms of the applause. Some of us on the panel are feeling a tad left out. Coming to the more serious issue, first and foremost, I just want to make this very straight. I think it was on your debate, Rahul, for the very first time, I was the one, and I'm not being a credit GV here, but facts need to be told. I had said that there is the 1936 Deen Muhammad judgment, whereby he said everything within the Gyanvapi complex, the basement, the grave, the masjid, the other temple structure, etc., is Waqf property, and hence Hindus cannot go there to pray. 1937, there was a judgment by the Secretary of State telling Deen Muhammad everything is not registered under Waqf and pray. So the first point is, the Places of Worship Act 1991, what is the cutoff date? The cutoff date is 15th August 1947. Now this dispute pertaining to Gyanvapi is from 1937, maybe earlier. So by that logic alone, by virtue of that argument, Places of Worship Act 1991 does not apply here, but the Honorable Court will take a call on that. Also by another argument, if Aurangzeb indeed, as we all know, it's in the public domain, if he destroyed Kashi Vishwanath Mandir, be it in 1664 or 1669, and built the Gyanvapi, this is a dispute which is either 353 or 358 years old. By that logic again, Places of Worship Act 1991 does not apply. Now the most important argument. When the farm laws were repealed, this entire cabal, I'm not going into the merits and demerits of the farm laws. We've had umpteen debates ad nauseum on that. The same brigade, as Rahul Shiv Shankar calls them, the Latian Lashkar Brigade, I call them the Hutch Lobby, they clapped in glee, saying, the Modi government to succumb to us, and it had to repeal the farm laws. Farm laws repeal ho sakte hain, Places of Worship Act kyun nahi repeal ho sakta? And by the way, when P.V. Narasimha Rao bulldozed this law and made it into an act, you know what were the powers he used? He used the residual powers available to the central government under entry 97, which is rarely used. Very rarely has any central government used entry 97 list 2 of the concurrent list and used its residual powers, because pilgrimages, places of worship come under state subjects. So point number 3 is that P.V. Narasimha Rao was never too democratic, but that's besides the argument. The most important argument is this. Forget legalese, technicalities. Do we all admit Jesus was born in Bethlehem? Of course. Do we dispute that? No.
Okay. Okay, so just answer me, because Tehseen has raised this question. Fair enough.
Do we dispute that? Why
No one does, and that's one of the reasons why the Hindu claim was upheld in Ayodhya.
Rahul, 10 seconds. Rahul, please, give me 10 seconds. Indulge me for 10 seconds. Why is it that when it comes to Krishna Janmabhoomi, why is it that when it comes to Ram Janmabhoomi, why is it that when it comes to, Baba Bholenath, place of worship, we Hindus have to time and again continue to prove that
No, so there are two answers to this, and let me no, hang on, Sanjay Verma. Okay, fair enough. You are very concerned about this, and you are saying that obviously this points to some deeper conspiracy, etc., etc. I'll get the response to that, but the simple question I want to ask you is, you can also end the wait and the suffering. Repeal the act. Repeal the act. Let Mr. Yogi Adityanath get in there and say, look, the old orders that were passed, I think by, and I have to correct this, viewers, I think by Samajwadi Party government in 1992 will be overturned. So I'm just going to get that checked. But I just want to ask you this question. Yogi Adityanath, who believes in upholding the principles of all Astha, etc., why didn't he just do it?
Yeah, so Rahul, I don't want to be drawn into a debate which could sort of rake up a controversy. You asked me a couple of days back. I told you Places of Worship Act has to go. Now, will the Modi government bite the bullet, or will respective state governments in Assam or Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh bite the bullet? I'm sure they will. I will just leave it by saying the very lot which challenge Article 370 will not be abrogated. Article 35A will not be abrogated, have a big, nice, fat omelette on their faces. So don't challenge the Modi government. When it will do what needs to be done is the prerogative and state government. Let us not second guess them. But let us not give a long rope to the Muslim side, which has tried testing the resilience and patience of Hindus by bringing up various kinds of...
Okay, so viewers, just a very quick background. Kalyan Singh was preceded by Mulayam Singh in Uttar Pradesh. Kalyan Singh, of course, was Chief Minister till 1992 December. Right after, you had an imposition where Hindus were not allowed to offer prayers at the Gyanvapi mosque complex. At that time, Uttar Pradesh was under President's rule. And of course, from 1991 to 1996, viewers, it was a Congress government. P.V. Narasimha Rao government. So those are the facts. Now, one of the reasons why, of course, this act cannot be repealed straight out of hand is because right now the matter is sub judice. It is before the Supreme Court. Some people say that it can't be done while it is being heard by the Supreme Court. Others say that it can be done. That a lawyer will clarify. But I want to bring in Mohandas Pai, Abbas Haider and Tanveer Ahmed. Tanveer Ahmed, you were making some direct allegations and points. The Congress leadership, other opposition party leadership, the JDS, the MIM has repeatedly accused BJP of playing a parochial Hindutva politics to criminalize and disenfranchise Muslims. This is what you have been saying, even on the back of the agitation which is now growing for claims in Karnataka. Okay, fair enough, they're doing all of this. But the petitioners are filing pleas not on behalf of Modi or the BJP. These are not people who are in any way card-carrying members till a last check, especially in the Gyanvapi mosque issue of the BJP. They are fighting for the rights of Hindus which devolve upon this community under various articles of the Constitution. Why not allow them? When the facts are so plainly obvious, when the truth is staring at us in our face. Here is the truth.
Rahul, are we going to really decide what is going to be the outcome of this entire issue by sitting in your studio and people like Sanjay Verma are going to dictate terms in this country? We have elders of the community, we have law, we have constitution. We definitely need to really find out a way to really have an amicable solution. This is not the kind of language. What is the kind of language Sanju Verma is saying? 370 is done, 35 is done, we will do this. You will never do this, ma'am. You will never do this. Because you will never do this. Why? Because you need to really cover your mistakes by, for dollar price. You are failed. By understanding aspirations of the youth, you have failed. Unemployment, you have failed. By taking care of this country, you have failed. You have compromised the borders at China, Pakistan. You have failed, and you need an issue to really hide your negativities. You need an issue to hide your negativities. You would not talk.
No, one second. Let's just separate the issue. Let's just 1 second. Let's not speak over each other. Tanveer Ahmed, I just want to ask you. Please explain to me. Okay, Tanveer Ahmed, 1 second. Just explain to me. I'm not understanding what you're saying. I'm a bit confused. Can you explain to me how the BJP has any stake in this Gyanvapi mosque dispute? Can you explain? What is the exact immediate stake they have? Can you just explain to me?
I can certainly explain. People like Sanju Verma and likes of her who want to really get recognized as leaders are using this issue to communalize and put fuel into it and ensure.
No, Tanveer Saab, 1 minute. Just 1 second, Sanju Verma, please.
As happened in 1992.
No, Tanveer Saab, I just want to ask you.
Tanveer Saab,
let's just go back.
That's exactly what they want to do.
Look, you're a respectable spokesperson, and look, we all respect your judgment and opinion. But let me just point out a few facts to you. The 1991 Act was brought about without any consultation. All you in the opposition today accuse the Modi government of ramrodding the 3 farm laws, saying that was undemocratic. Well, this act that was brought without any consultation. The opposition in the form of the BJP staged a walkout. A discussion was done very cursorily. It was not even referred to a select committee. There are, according to some legal experts, some infirmities. Number one. So the BJP has no role in, first of all, creating this mess. Let me be honest about this entire issue, okay, if you want the facts. Number two, if you're interested again in the facts,
has created a lot
the
of
Hindus, sir, please listen to me. The Hindus were barred from offering prayers when they had been doing so from time immemorial. There are Congress governments that have filed an affidavit to say that the Kashi Vishwanath temple student was raised by Aurangzeb. The British, who have no love for either Hindus or Muslims, you would agree with me, have come out and said this was not even a mosque to begin with. So you have no special claim over this issue. So I'm only asking, you're giving the BJP fodder, if as you claim they're trying to make political capital out of it. Don't give them the capital. Just say, okay, let the Hindus worship. Let's have that. But you have taken this matter to court, or at least the committee has. Why?
Rahul, who is going to decide this? Muslim community do have certain elders. We need to really talk to those elders and need to engage, because we don't want any
engage, sir. The time for engagement is over. Tomorrow the video evidence of the surveys are going to be presented. Will you even accept the video evidence that has been captured in the survey, or will you reject that also?
Actually, people within the survey committee are doubting the people who have gone there. You might have read the newspaper. You might have read the court has no problem. People are accusing
the court has no problem with the people
who have gone there.
1 minute,
people
sir.
Who have, absolutely.
The court has acted by removing one person, but they have not in any way said that the person cannot submit the evidence. So the reports are going to be submitted tomorrow. The videotapes will be submitted tomorrow. The videotapes will show you, viewers, and Mohandas Pai, correct me if I'm wrong, they will show you Hindu motifs are very much part of the superstructure of the Gyanvapi mosque. It's Char Diwari, as they say, the 4 walls. 2 of those walls are built on the temple, and you can see the architecture. Hindu architecture. So Mohandas Pai, this is what is going to be shown, which is visible to the naked eye. Now I want to know, Do you think the Muslims will accept it, or do you think they'll reject it? We have Tanveer Ahmed saying that we are very peace-loving, we don't want to have bad blood. So I'm asking you, Mohandas Bhai, what is your hunch? Will the elders tomorrow accept it?
First, let us go back to basics. The fact remains that the land belongs to the temple and it has been destroyed by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb himself claims it. So I don't think anybody in this debate can overrule Aurangzeb's claim that he destroyed it because he has claimed it. We can't let the leftist historians write fake narrative that he was secular. He was not secular. He was a religious bigot. He was a jihadi in his own words. Second, the Hindus have gone to the court to say they have been worshipping in that particular place right from a long period of time, even before 1947 till 1992, and therefore the rights to worship should be continued. Now, the question is not whether it is a mosque or anything else. All they're saying is, we have been worshipping there for a long period of time, right up to 92. You have illegally stopped us from entering and worshipping. Give us the right to worship and restore status quo ante.
Mr. Pai, you've gone on mute.
In case the courts are not able to decide, then the UP government should make sure that the 1992 bar is removed and status quo ante is restored.
I agree with you.
In the event that does not happen, the 1991 law should be amended to give justice to the Hindu community on one of their most sacred sites. Now, under Islamic law too, you can't have a mosque on land which belongs to a temple.
Okay.
You cannot build a mosque on land destroyed, where a temple or a church
Point
or
made.
anything else done. That is what Islamic law says.
And it has been conceded in these documents. It's a...
Mohan,
Yes.
why don't
Let
you
the
make
court
an
decide.
attempt to speak to the elders of
So
Muslim
1 minute,
community?
Tanveer Saab, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Mohan,
Many
why
attempts
don't you
have
make
been
an
made.
attempt to speak
Many
to the
attempts
elders
have
of the
been
Muslim
made. I just
community?
want to ask a question of Samajwadi Party spokesperson Abbas Haider Saab. Abbas Haider Saab, please. You have been listening very patiently. I want to ask you a simple question, Abbas Saab. Why are you opposing the Hindu right to pray on a place which is hallowed ground for Hindus? Simple question.
Rahulji, we have never opposed anyone to pray. In fact, I would like to tell you that there have been 4 Bharatiya Janata Party government in Uttar Pradesh. Rajnath Singh ji have been Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. Yogi Adityanath ji has completed a full term as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. Kalyan Singh ji has been Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. After the permission was, permission to pray 365 days was declined. So, did any of the Bharatiya Janata Party government gave them permission to pray 365 days? My another question to Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson is that initially these 4 ladies, they requested the district administration to grant them permission to pray 365 days, but the district magistrate denied their permission. So who was the chief minister that time? Yogi Adityanath ji was the chief minister that time. So why did he go?
Haider Saab, it's a very direct question. Do you support the case? Haider Saab, I'm only asking you a simple question because your leaders have come out and clearly supported the Ijtema committee's petitions in the court. So I'm asking you, why are you supporting the committee's petition in court?
We as a political party, I'll answer you in a binary way. We as a political party we are not a party in this case, and you can question the same, you can ask the same question from BJP, that why did Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh pre-UP election tweeted that Kashi Mathura abhi baki hai? What did he mean to say? Why did BJP
But Mr. Haider, I'm saying to you,
what does it mean?
Mr. Haider, I'm saying to you, for a moment, let's suspend belief and say, yes, the BJP is making political capital out of it. I'm only asking you, why are you allowing them to make political capital? Resolve the issue immediately. Call upon the elders. I like the way Tanveer Ahmed is now asking Sanju Verma and Mohandas Pai to speak to the Muslim elders. Do you think they're going to listen to the BJP at all? I'm asking you, Abbas Haider Saab, baith jao.
On this issue, they could have done it amicably. This was before going to the court. They went to the district magistrate.
Let me just rewind. Viewers, let me rewind to 2019, early 2019. Shri Ravi Shankar viewers came out and said that I want to bring the disputing property.
One more thing, Rahulji, I just want to say.
Haider Sahab,
if you allow me.
The disputing sides.
By questioning the 1990 legality of the 1991 Act, does Sanju Verma question the intent of the 5 judges of the Supreme Court who have considered this law as a basic structure of the Constitution?
No, they have not. They have not opined on the law. Please.
They have.
They have not opined on the law. Please don't spread fake news. There is 2 judgments which tell you that Supreme Court observations are only binding when the matter in specific. The observations are made in specific to matters that are brought before it for consideration. Now, viewers, let me tell you that none of these matters, including the Ayodhya matter, could have been brought before it for consideration, especially because the law makes an exemption for Ayodhya. So in the Ayodhya title dispute, you could have not had a binding order upholding the sanctity of the 1991 Act on merits. This is a proposition settled in law. Anyone telling you that the Supreme Court has already upheld the matter should ask themselves one basic question. Then why is it hearing a petition challenging the 1991 Act? Is the Supreme Court out of its mind? If it's already ruled to say that the Act is inviolable, that the Act has been upheld and is absolutely sacrosanct, why is it entertaining other petitioners and issuing notices to the centre?
Bench can only find it unconstitutional.
No, listen to me, Abbas Haider. Let's not be silly about this. You are neither a lawyer, and I don't know, sir, but at this moment, you are not even behaving as a very considerate member of Indian society trying to build trust. And that is sad.
Rahul,
that is very sad. Haider Saab, very, very sad. Mohandas Pai wants to come in. Yes.
We are trying to build, sir. We are not
Rahul,
being a party in this matter.
I want to make a point.
We have always...
As the Muslim community at any point of time reached out to the Hindus to say, you have been wrong, your temples have been destroyed by Aurangzeb, we will help you restore your rights. They have not. They're not demonstrating goodwill. All of them are always fighting. This is our mosque. Aurangzeb is a great hero. He has done well. They respect Aurangzeb. They come on TV and sing paeans to him. I mean, this is not.
Let me tell you, tomorrow, the survey, videotape, photographs, etc., will be handed over to both sides. And if tomorrow, and Times Now is going to break that story first, we are going to tell you what was discovered in that survey. And if there are Hindu motifs, as we expect them to be, because they're quite visible, viewers, the question will be, will the Muslim side accept it, withdraw their suits, allow the Hindus to do what they have to do, which is worship at this site? Let's see, viewers. This entire matter now hangs by that thread. We move on, because it's been quite a big and busy news day. Prime Minister's visit to Japan for the Quad meeting has created a huge buzz. The most defining picture of the day was this one on your screens, with Prime Minister Modi and the heads of other Quad countries. And you can see Mr. Biden, next to him, Mr. Albanese, in the front, walking lock in step with India's Prime Minister, is the Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Kishida. The picture was hailed by many, including the BJP, as a symbol of India standing in the world today, a Vishwa Guru and a first among equals. But the endorsement for India came also from US President Joe Biden and other heads of Quad nations. According to sources during a closed-door session, a bilateral, President Biden praised, in fact, Prime Minister Modi for successfully handling the COVID pandemic's fallout in the country. Interestingly, he drew a parallel with countries like China and Russia to say that India handled the pandemic successfully, unlike these other autocracies. Biden also said that India's success has shown that democracies can deliver. This was a welcome change, viewers. There are many in Biden's own party that had reservations about India's democracy. The fact that Biden has overruled them and talked about the inherent strengths of India's democracy is a resounding message to all of those who sit on the fence or bait India's democratic credentials. India's COVID handling also came in for praise from the Prime Ministers of Japan and Australia. It's interesting that even as a democratic India was hailed in Tokyo, on the other side of the world, in Cambridge, United Kingdom, Rahul Gandhi was busy drawing up a dismal picture of the political scenario back home, saying that Prime Minister Modi is creating a vision that is not inclusive and leaves out huge chunks of the population. Now, viewers, think about it. If huge chunks of the population were being left out, how would we have won this fight against COVID? Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs have all got inoculated. A vast majority of them have got the first dose. Another vast majority have got a second dose. The booster is being rolled out. But Rahul Gandhi said that discrimination was a massive problem. And he said that this discrimination goes against the very idea of an inclusive India. Rahul Gandhi even posed with anti-India baiter and former Labour Party boss and MP Jeremy Corbyn. If Modi is pushing India towards the edge of a breakup, as Rahul claims, then why was he hobnobbing with Corbyn, who supports separatism in Kashmir? By advocating for separatism, he's actually cutting off India's head, viewers, and undermining the very idea of India, which is based on plurality. Can't understand this. Well, BJP politicians in India are not the only ones to question and contradict Rahul Gandhi's views. In Cambridge, an IS officer studying in Rahul's alma mater confronted him on his idea of India, when he called it a union of states and not a nation. Rahul Gandhi has not read the preamble of the Indian Constitution. The fine print will show that the preamble refers, viewers, to India as a nation. India is not a federation of states as United States is, where civil wars had to be fought to create a union. Viewers, first listen in to what Rahul Gandhi has been saying in the past. Rahul Gandhi, speaking at the Congress Chintan Shivir, came out with this theory that India is only a union of states. It's not a nation. It's not a Rashtra. It's not Bharat, viewers. It's not Bharat. Let's first play out. Let's first play out that bite that we played out, viewers, at 6:25 today. We can pull it out of that rundown for you, and I will play that out. But he again repeated this, and a young man who you see on your screens confronts him. First the confrontation, first Rahul Gandhi, and then the confrontation. Rahul Gandhi said this. Watch.
Some days back in Parliament, I made a speech where I said, India, Bharat, is a union of states. That is the line that is written in our constitution. India is not described as a nation. It is described as a union of states. Meaning, the states of India, the people of India, have come together to form the union. They have come together to form the union.
Viewers, Rahul Gandhi was talking about this, expounding on all of this, when that young gentleman on your screens, a student, an IS officer, confronts him. Watch this.
You quoted Article 1 of the Constitution saying India, that is Bharat, is a union of states, as per the Constitution. But if you turn a page back and look at the preamble, it does mention that India is a nation. Bharat itself is one of the oldest surviving civilizations of the world. And the term finds its origin in the Vedas. So we have a really old civilization. So Chanakya, even Chanakya, when he interacted with his students in Takshashila, he made it clear to them that they might belong to different Mahajanpads, but ultimately they belong to a nation that is Bharat. Adi Shankaracharya, he said the word... 10 seconds. One second. Did he use the word nation? He said, you belong to a Rashtra. Rashtra is, the Sanskrit... Rashtra is kingdom. Rashtra, no. It's a Sanskrit name for a nation. So nation is
the word nation, right, is a Western concept.
So when I talk about nation, I don't just talk about a political entity, because we've had these experiments across the world. You had USSR, you had Yugoslavia, you had the experimentation with the United Arab Republic. So unless nations have a strong socio-cultural and emotional bonding and a composite culture, a constitution cannot make a nation. Nations make constitutions. My question is, don't you think as a political leader, your idea of India is not only flawed and incorrect, but also destructive, because it attempts to whitewash a history of thousands of years?
No, actually, I don't think so.
Viewers, you can hear the derisive laughter by all the Gandhi supporters in that Cambridge auditorium that was accompanied when this young student, Mr. Verma, posed that question to Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi doesn't even know the word Rashtra means nation and not kingdom, as he says. He does not know this. He has probably not read the preamble. And we are going to have others who will come out and speak and defend him and try to contextualize his remarks, which are completely off base. Who do we have with us? We have Siddharth Verma today, the IS officer, and Sanjay Jha, author and a member of the Congress party. Now, first of all, Mr. Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you a question. You're going up against Siddharth Verma, an IS officer, person who's distinguished himself in that particular auditorium by asking the right question and by, of course, teaching a civics lesson to Rahul Gandhi, which pretty much everyone knows like the back of their hand, who's gone to school beyond class 8. So Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you this. Rahul Gandhi talks about the death of democracy in India. And I want to start this debate by throwing open this question, and I'll bring in both Mr. Verma and you into this. But he doesn't preach it in his own organization, in the Congress party. You yourself have suffered on account of asking questions just like Mr. Verma did. And Mr. Verma was, of course, derisively laughed off by some of those acolytes in that auditorium. And that too in an institution of learning which encourages viewers an open exchange. But clearly, there's no room for that. So Sanjay Jha, please explain. Please explain. Does Rahul Gandhi have any moral right or authority to speak about democracy?
No, he has. He absolutely has.
Okay.
So do you. So does Mr. Padma. So does everybody.
No, I have the right, but I don't know if I have the moral authority. That's the question. That's a much deeper question. Moral authority means that you are a Democrat instinctively and in your actions. So I'm asking you, as a suspended member of the Congress party, thrown out because you asked why there should be a perpetuation, and you tweeted recently after the Chintan Shivar was over. I read your tweet, and you said the biggest question is one of leadership, and that remains unresolved. So we can talk about everything, but till that is not resolved, there's nothing to talk about. So I'm asking you to be honest today, put your hand on your heart and say that Rahul Gandhi, if you believe, has a moral authority to speak about democracy, then tell us why.
Hand on heart, if you can see it on your screen.
Yeah.
Let me answer your question. Now your question, I am assuming, is done. I'll keep my answer shorter than your question, actually.
Good.
Number one, it is both possible that the Congress party could do better in terms of its internal democracy. And it is also possible that India is facing a democratic deconsolidation. The two actually perhaps are a reality. I don't have to quote to you the Freedom Index, where people are openly talking about all over the world. Mr. Verma is, I'm assuming, in the UK. And if he reads multiple newspapers and magazines in the UK or the US or any other, kind of media of preference, illiberal democracy, elected autocracy, a democratically elected dictatorship, that's what India is described all over the globe, no matter what the Indian media actually says back home. The truth is this. That is India facing a communal stress? Absolutely. Is Rahul Gandhi wrong in questioning Mr. Modi's authoritarian predilections? Absolutely not. And I want to just make a short point to what, I think Siddharth mentioned to his question to Mr. Gandhi. I'm glad that dialogue. I really encourage somebody young like him posing these questions to anybody in the political ecosystem. The point Siddhartha Rao is making, and I want you to kind of perhaps not miss that, because he's spoken about it not once but several times, is about the illusion of cooperative federalism in this country. You're a bureaucrat, I gather. You are part of the Indian administrative service. I have the highest respect for the Indian bureaucracy. And I want to tell you this, that when you look at Disha Ravi, a young girl in Bangalore, where you had a police from from Delhi coming down to arrest her, would you as a citizen of India actually endorse that? When a Jignesh Bevani is arrested by a cross-border police moving around on charges of what? Criticizing the Prime Minister? Is that democracy? These are questions we need to answer. And Rahul, one last point before I think Siddharth comes in. I, as a citizen of the country, much before as a Congress suspended member, blah, blah, I am concerned because I do believe that at the end of the day, it's a cultural diversity. I think Siddharth mentioned composite culture. It means the same thing. India is not culturally homogeneous. We are diverse. We have a regional uniqueness. There is, read the statement of the Tamil Nadu Finance Minister to Nirmala Sitharaman. He said, you can't talk down to me. Just because you're the finance minister, you can't exhort me to cut taxes when you have done exactly the opposite for so many months ago.
Okay.
That is a complex debate.
Okay, it's a complex debate, viewers, and the Congress party has the moral authority through its archangel, Rahul Gandhi, to talk about it. Now, 3 or 4 points before I bring in Mr. Verma. It's very important that Mr. Verma responds to you. Just want to make 3 or 4 points, viewers. Sure. Sanjay Jha talked about cooperative federalism. And he invoked the examples of arrests that were made by sending police forces across state jurisdictions, forgetting that a journalist was recently arrested by the Rajasthan police, picked up from his home in Delhi and taken.
I don't endorse that.
You don't endorse that, but it happened under a Congress state. So you invoked the example, I didn't. You may not.
The whataboutery
No, there's no whataboutery. This is a fact. If the BJP has sent its police force across the state, you have done the same. So that cancels out. The BJP is no better than you are in this sweepstakes. You talk about cultural diversity. You talked about cultural diversity. The Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, no less, viewers, came out and said the following. You know what he said? The first right on India's natural resources lies with the Muslims.
He never said that.
He said it, and you know it.
Him.
You talk about cultural diversity. Rajiv Gandhi jumps up and says on the back of the biggest rats in India in post-partition history, what does he say? When a big tree falls, the ground shakes. When the big tree falls, the ground shakes. This is the way they upheld cultural diversity, viewers.
Well, the Modi said, "Hum paanch, hamare 25."
It's okay. I'm only saying, what if Modi is guilty if the BJP is so rotten that they are all autocratic? How is the Congress party distinguishing itself by doing exactly the same or even worse? Secondly, viewers, let me tell you.
Made mistakes.
Okay, no, make mistakes. Other people also make mistakes. Then apologize for those mistakes. Don't take the moral high ground and say we are the biggest kingpins. Anyhow, I don't want to argue further. I brought in 2 or 3 points. Mr. Verma, your responses to Sanjay Jha tonight. Why do you find what Rahul Gandhi says so disturbing?
Well, 2 days ago in London and even before that, I was quite disturbed that now we are coming to a debate in which we are challenging the narrative of the idea of India. We have, grown up in an environment in which, we are taught about India's history. We have grown up in a very diverse country, so many states and so much diversity. And my understanding as a student of history and also as a student of politics has been that it's not legal documents that make nations. The reason why India has been successful, it has been a wonder. If you look at all the countries which became independent in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, India has been a remarkable achievement that it has been able to maintain the unity and sovereignty of such a diverse people. And the reason is that we were not born in 1947. We go much further back, thousands of years, and it's the composite culture and the values and the emotions and the socio-cultural foundations of the country that bring us together. And if you take everything away and try to find your secular ethos or your democratic values on just a legal document, then I think it's going into dangerous territory, because India's society itself, all the values which you find in the constitution are actually societal and cultural values that were there in the Indian society all the time. Coming to Jhaji's point on the foreign media and how India has been projected as an autocratic, country in some of the indices and also in articles in the foreign media, I do actually look at articles in the Telegraph or the Guardian or the New York Times. What I found surprising is that most of these articles are actually written by Indian journalists in foreign journals. They're not actually foreign journalists, at least most of them. The other thing is that I try to base my understanding of India and the knowledge on, talking to people, much more, on people-to-people contact rather than what the media is telling me. And let me tell you, I've been in Cambridge for almost 9 months now, and I've traveled all across the UK and in Europe. And when I talk to people here, when I talk to scholars from, different countries, I see a growing optimism about India. People look at India as the harbinger of democratic values in, the developing world. And India is actually going, I think people here who belong to other countries are more optimistic about India than some of the Indians who are here. And what India needs right now is a lot of that optimism. And when you go on a foreign stage, you tell people that, there's a lot of optimism and India's going to be a big superpower in the future, which it will be. And so, I just find it quite surprising and disappointing that we are, putting forth a very gloomy picture of India, which I don't agree with.
Well, let me also tell you, viewers, this is the index that Sanjay Jha is quoting. The World Press Freedom Index is one of them. Let me tell you the irony here. Pakistan is at 145. Lanka is at 127. Myanmar is at 140. And Bangladesh is at 162, viewers. Bangladesh, which today is a beacon of economic progress and democratic stability. Myanmar, where a military junta is hunting down minorities. Pakistan, where the army is killing its own citizens. There are large-scale disappearances of journalists and all dissidents, including Imran Khan, viewers, today. And viewers, in Lanka, which we have seen has imploded on itself, all of them are higher than Bangladesh. Bangladesh, till about 2 years back, their GDP, the Congress was saying, per capita is higher than India. What a model country. That same index, these democratic indexes, put Bangladesh right at the bottom. That's how reliable they are. In Canada, when truckers were left to die and starve, there was no downgrading of Canada's democracy number, viewers. It went higher. That is a hypocrisy. And that's what Mr. Verma is talking about, not Mr. Jha. Mr. Verma, just very quickly, you were challenged by Rahul Gandhi. You were challenged by Rahul Gandhi on this. India is a union of nations. 1 second, I just want to bring Mr. Verma in. Give me 30 seconds, please.
Can I respond to him later?
Yeah, you can, if you have time. I've really run out of time. Mr. Verma, I just wanted to ask you, did Rahul Gandhi come out and engage with you later on? Did he try to even ask you that in the preamble that you were quoting, the word nation is mentioned? Because he says it's not mentioned at all.
Mr.
Yeah, so the preamble point was...
No. Before you answer, Rahul, just two questions for you. India, you said, should have a reason for age of optimism. Sure, where the economy is concerned, maybe. But tell me, if you were a Muslim in this country, and you heard about congregations calling for the genocide of Muslims, if there are 40 Muslims who have been lynched to death since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, can I ask you, you're in the UK. I go there pretty often, by the way. Would Boris Johnson survive as a Prime Minister in the UK for even 1 week, since he can't even survive Partygate, if there were people being lynched to death in the UK? Would he survive for 5 years? Would he be popular? Would Britain be an optimistic country, Mr. Siddharth Verma?
Well, I I won't comment on the particular instances which you have mentioned, but I continue to believe, and India is a very multicultural country, and it continues to be so. And I know there's a lot of hysteria going around all around the world. I don't really believe in it, because what I believe in, I come from Lucknow, and political parties have changed throughout, the time I've been in Lucknow. But I haven't really, as a person who stays very much with people of India. This is like one of the first times I'm coming on television. I actually spend more time on the ground than on the television. So, I don't see these fault lines within India on the ground. I do see these fault lines on television debates.
On television debates, that's very important. Remember, viewers, Sanjay Jha is posing these questions when he knows that the anchor of this particular show, part of his family is a Kashmiri Hindu family. I don't remember any Prime Minister giving out a statement in this country condemning the lack of justice for Kashmiri Hindus. Don't remember it. Don't remember it. We're talking about Boris Johnson here and all of these people, but not one statement, viewers, not one word of apology for denying justice.
I feel as free in India, and the people I meet in India, I think everyone feels as free in India as they feel.
Well, Rohingya Muslims want to come to India, viewers. They don't want to go to higher ranked Sri Lanka or Pakistan in the World Democracy Index. They want to come to India. Afghans want to come to India. They're Muslims, viewers. There must be some reason why they want to come to India. I leave it at that.
Times now. Action begins here.
क्या पूछूं आपसे कि आपका जो स्टे था कांग्रेस पार्टी में, ये शॉर्ट एंड स्वीट था कि हॉट एंड सावर था?
जब राजनीति में कोई फैसले होते हैं मैडम जी, तब एक बात बहुत तय होती है कि लोगों के हित के लिए, जनता की सेवा के लिए ये फैसला होना चाहिए, और उसी को देखते हुए ये फैसला लिया गया था। लेकिन जहां गए, जिस कांग्रेस पार्टी पर भरोसा किया, उनके नेताओं पर जो भरोसा किया, उससे एक बात तो तय हो गई थी कि ना ये जन सेवा करना चाहते हैं और ना कोई करता है उसको रोकने का काम करते हैं। जो जन सेवा करना चाहता है उसको रोक दो, हम नहीं करना चाहते तो हमारे साथ जुड़ जाओ। और ये काम हम नहीं कर सकते थे। हम आंदोलन के जरिए निकले थे, लोगों ने हम पर उम्मीद देखी थी, हम पर भरोसा किया था, और हमने कहीं ना कहीं गुजरात के भीतर एक अच्छी उम्मीद को खड़ा करने का काम किया था, जो कांग्रेस को इनडायरेक्टली डायरेक्टली 2017 में फायदा किया था और मजबूत विपक्ष की भूमिका में आई थी। लेकिन आज कहां हुआ, ना आपको मीटिंग में बुलाते हैं, आपको वर्किंग प्रेसिडेंट बना दिया, लेकिन कोई काम आपका तय ना किया। कहीं ना कहीं सिर्फ अपमान। और हमारे परिवार में और हमारे कई साथी कहते हैं कि अगर जहां सम्मान ना हो वहां अपमान नहीं होना चाहिए।
तो हार्दिक जी, ये सब आपको पहले से पता नहीं था? क्योंकि 2017 आप पॉलिटिक्स में आए थे और 2019 का चुनाव हुआ था, आप बहुत जगह साथ साथ घूमे थे, क्योंकि आपने फॉर्मली कांग्रेस पार्टी ज्वाइन कर ली थी। और हमेशा से लोग यही कहते हैं कि कांग्रेस पार्टी एक प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी ओन्ड बाय एक गांधी परिवार है। तो आपको पहले ये पता नहीं था, या अंदर जाके कुछ ऐसा पता चला जो आप चौंक गए और इतना सरप्राइज हो गए?
देखिए नविका जी, मैं 2019 में पार्टी ज्वाइन किया था। 2015 से लेकर 2019 तक मैं इंडिपेंडेंट रहा, जनता की आंदोलन किए, जनता की सेवा की, और हमारे आंदोलन के कारण अनेक योजना गुजरात के लोगों को मिली। कांग्रेस में ज्वाइन होने का रीजन ये था कि हमें ऐसा था कि यार हमारा कोई पॉलिटिकल फैमिली है नहीं, पॉलिटिकल परिवार नहीं है, चलो राहुल गांधी जी हमें प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे, इसीलिए हम पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ज्वाइन किया। पहले दिन से जो विपरीत परिस्थिति हमारे साथ होती थी, हर दिन हर मुद्दे को लेकर हम राहुल जी को मुद्दा बताते रहते कि आज इन लोगों ने ये किया है, आप थोड़ा देखिएगा। कोई रिस्पॉन्स नहीं, कोई जवाब नहीं। लगातार हम अपनी परेशानी पार्टी के भीतर जो थी वो राहुल जी तक पहुंचाई, लेकिन उन्होंने कभी स्टैंड नहीं लिया। तो हम जो उस भरोसे से आए थे, उस भरोसा तो हमें काम करने नहीं दे रहा था, वो तो प्रोटेक्ट नहीं कर रहा था। बात रही जब कोई लीडर दिल्ली से गुजरात आता है तो उसकी जिम्मेवारी होती है कि यार जो लीडर से यहाँ के स्टेट के, उन सबसे 1 by 1 मिल लिया जाए। कभी भी 1 by 1 मिलने का मौका नहीं दिया गया या ना 1 by 1 मिलने का काम किया। गुजरात में 2017 के चुनाव में 82 सीट्स कुल मिला के कांग्रेस की आई थी। आज कितनी है मालूम है आपको? 65। यानी कि आपके इतने विधायक चले गए तो आपने कभी एक साथ सभी विधायक से बैठने का काम नहीं किया। जो 4 साल से मैं कह रहा था कि आप सभी विधायक से मिलिए, वो काम अभी दाहोद में 10 दिन पहले जब आए थे तब पहली बार हुआ। तो जब आप जनता के हितों के लिए काम करना नहीं चाहते, उनकी मदद नहीं करना चाहते, उनके लिए खड़ा नहीं होना चाहते, तो आप कैसे
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A picture speaks 1,000 words, but this one image probably speaks 1 billion. This image tells you the world order is changing. This image tells you that Vishwaguru Bharat is leading Quad from the front. It is proof of new India's rising stature in the world. Even the United States President Joe Biden didn't hold back on raining praises on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His one-word message was that PM Modi has shown that democracies can deliver. In an unscripted remark, he compared India's success with China's failure to handle the COVID-19 pandemic. On the other hand, Rahul Gandhi raised a completely different raga. Interacting with students at the University of Cambridge, he claimed that the centre is leaving out huge chunks of India's population and that it goes beyond the vision of India. He asserted that the government is attacking the idea of India. But there are very few takers for Rahul Gandhi's no democracy in India stand. Last year, he said that India is no longer a democratic country, but today, Joe Biden endorsed Prime Minister, saying that he has shown that democracies can deliver. In 2020, Rahul Gandhi emphatically said there is no democracy in India in reality, but last April, United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson asserted that India plays a key role as a guardian of democratic values. He had also claimed that under Modi, dictatorship has become a vocation, but EU President hailed Indian democracy, saying that world watches when Indians vote. If this wasn't enough, Rahul Gandhi met his own beta, in fact India's beta, Jeremy Corbyn in London. Jeremy Corbyn, who is Labour Party's member and has never minced words when it comes to maligning India, from encouraging separatism to lying about human rights violations in Jammu and Kashmir, to actually saying that Kashmir should not be part of India and that there should be a plebiscite in Kashmir to decide whether it should stay with India or Pakistan. Corbyn was the man Rahul Gandhi chose to meet and be photographed with. The BJP came out all guns blazing, attacking Rahul Gandhi. Listen in.
जिस तरह वो भारत की सुरक्षा नीति के विरोधी करने वालों की झोली में बैठकर ट्वीट खेल रहे हैं, ये देश की सुरक्षा व्यवस्था को वो चुनौती दे रहे हैं। दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। वो एक डिज्नी प्रिंस की भूमिका में है और देश में उनकी पार्टी ही उनको सीरियसली नहीं लेती, जनता तो बहुत दूर।
एक बात स्पष्ट हो गई है कि भारतीय राजनीति का मिट्टी का तेल कौन है। जहां जहां देश के खिलाफ चिंगारी होगी, वहां पे राहुल गांधी मिट्टी का तेल लेके खड़े होंगे। ये वो व्यक्ति हैं जो भारत के खिलाफ षड्यंत्र करते हैं और राहुल गांधी वो अदृश्य शक्ति हैं जो षड्यंत्र को ताकत देती है।
And it wasn't just BJP politicians who were taking on Rahul Gandhi and contradicting him. It was in Cambridge where an IRTS officer, Siddharth Verma, studying in Rahul's alma mater, confronted him on his idea of India when he called it a union of states and not a nation. Listen in to the Gyan, the real Gyan that Siddharth Verma gave Rahul Gandhi.
You quoted Article 1 of the Constitution saying India, that is Bharat, is a union of states as per the Constitution. But if you turn a page back and look at the preamble, it does mention that India is a nation. Bharat itself is one of the oldest surviving civilizations of the world. And the term finds its origin in the Vedas. So we have a really old civilization. So Chanakya, even Chanakya, when he interacted with his students in Takshashila, he made it clear to them that they might belong to different Mahajanpads, but ultimately they belong to a nation that is Bharat. Adi Shankaracharya, he said the word... 10 seconds.
One second. Did he use the word nation?
He said, you belong to a Rashtra. Rashtra is, the Sanskrit...
Rashtra is kingdom.
Rashtra, no. It's a Sanskrit name for a nation. So,
nation is the word nation, right, is a Western concept.
So when I talk about nation, I don't just talk about a political entity, because we've had these experiments across the world. You had USSR, you had Yugoslavia, you had the experimentation with the United Arab Republic. So unless nations have a strong socio-cultural and emotional bonding and a composite culture, a constitution cannot make a nation. Nations make constitutions. My question is, don't you think as a political leader, your idea of India is not only flawed and incorrect, but also destructive because it attempts to whitewash a history of thousands of years?
No, actually, I don't think so.
So the legitimate question we are asking on the Newshour tonight: will Rahul Gandhi stop Bharat bashing? That's the question and the debate. Vishwa Guru Bharat, that's the hashtag and the debate. Coming up on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate, Gaurav Bhatia, national spokesperson of the BJP, Suhail Seth, marketing guru, Karthik Reddy, spokesperson of the TRS, Ashutosh, political analyst, Siddharth Verma, IRTS officer, also joining me on the Newshour tonight. But my first question goes to Lokesh Jindal. Lokesh Jindal, I want to ask you, Mr. Lokesh Jindal, is India a union of states or is it a nation? राष्ट्र का मतलब किंगडम होता है या राष्ट्र का मतलब नेशन होता है? क्या होता है according to the Congress party?
Constitutionally, it's a union of states. And when you're talking about the idea of nation, I just heard some person saying that the idea of nation was there in ancient times. That person don't know what history is. Nationality and nationalism as a concept is modern in origin. Please don't go back to a golden age that the idea of nation prevailed. All these forms of historiography that was popularized by K.P. Jaiswal, A.S. Altekar, they are nice to hear that there was a golden age in the past and everything modern has originated from the golden age. But this is not all true. The idea of modern nation state, it emanated in 19th century, and Congress nurtured this idea via which India as a modern nation state emerged. So when I'm talking about
nation state, can you tell me, is it a nation or a union of states? इतना ज्ञान मत दीजिए कि overload हो जाए. Nation or union of states? Please, it is a short question with two options. You have to only press one option. Nation or union of states?
But as a nation, it is an idea. So please try to understand there's a huge difference between nation and state. And as a nation state, India incorporates both an idea as well as a union of states.
Siddharth Verma, हमारी पढ़ाई तो कोई काम नहीं आई. What have they taught you in Cambridge? Can you respond to Lokesh Jindal, because I think the Congress party is confused between nation, nation state and other definitions. I can just read out the first part of the preamble of the Constitution, which clearly points out that India is a nation, but somehow Rahul Gandhi seems to have escaped that particular mention. And in the preamble where it says, "We the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, assuming the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation." But Mr. Rahul Gandhi hasn't read the preamble. Do you think so, Siddharth Verma?
So, so the Constitution, came into being in the 1950. Let's go three years back. Even Jawaharlal Nehru's speech of Tryst of Destiny on the midnight of 14th of August 1947, he clearly mentions that India is a nation. Let's go further back. 1893, Swami Vivekananda went to Chicago, clearly mentions that he has come from a nation and how he's proud of his values, of his cultural values and the diversity of his country. Let's go further back. Adi Shankaracharya, he established 4 mutts in 4 directions. Of what exactly? Odisha, Uttarakhand, Gujarat and Karnataka. North, south, east, west. These were directions of a nation because people associated with this nation. We go further back, and I talked about this in that event as well, that Chanakya also made it show India had a lot of Mahajanpads, but he made it show to his students that they belong to a Rashtra, which is Bharat. He also made it show to the kings under which he worked as the Prime Minister that I'm working for you as long as you are putting the interest of the Rashtra, which is Bharat. As soon as you start working against it, so look, you can interrupt me and be so intolerant about the idea of Bharat. I don't know what's the intolerance about the idea of Bharat. Why has India, despite so much diversity, so many different regions, been able to survive as a democratic, a liberal democracy after 1947? Is it just because we wrote a preamble? Is it just because we wrote those values in a legal document? No, because these values have existed in India's society for thousands of years. And this is the idea which we have grown up with. And to say that these values don't exist and somehow on the midnight of 15th August 47 or 26th January 1950, these values, just spontaneously emerged in, more than 700 million people, nobody actually believes in it. And the response of my exchange with Mr. Gandhi yesterday on social media, on interacting with other people I've talked to, I think there's an overwhelming understanding with the people of India that they belong to an ancient Bharatiya civilization which has been in existence for thousands of years.
So Lokesh Jindal, can you tonight have the courage to say that India is a nation, a Rashtra? Or do you still think it's a kingdom and a union of states?
Mr. Verma, you must be knowing about Article 1 of the Constitution, which clearly states India shall be a union of states. And secondly, let me explain the term nation. Now, nation as a concept, culturally, it is an evolving concept. Right from the ancient times when the Indo-Aryans, they came and they established a Vedic culture, a Puranic culture, followed by all forms of Advaitavad, the infusion of Sufis, Islamics, and as well as advent of modern ideas in the 19th century BC, there was always some form of a give and take that was taking place between India and the rest of the world. So the nation as a concept, it has evolved. And in the modern times, the idea that evolved in the 19th century incorporated the concept of unity in diversity. That is, all those people who are inhabiting within the territory of India had inherited a composite culture which could be traced down to millennials.
Lokesh Jindal, I want to come back to Mr. Verma. And Siddharth Verma, I want to ask you just one small question which will settle this debate. I want to ask you, was Rahul Gandhi speaking speaking in the 18th century or was he speaking in the 21st century? Are we going to now revisit this entire, historical perspective that is being given by Lokesh Jindal to protect his boss? The fact is that he was speaking in 2022 and he doesn't understand the word called nation. Did you find that surprising?
Absolutely, and not just nation, but the fact is that Mr. Jindal wants to look at Article 1, which Article 1 actually sets the tone for the Constitution because it mentions the territories of India, which is the reason why it says it's a union of state. And also it uses the term union, not a federation. But you're not willing to look at the preamble. I don't understand why. That you are cherry picking some things to actually peddle a narrative. And also, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar clearly said that India is an indestructible union of destructible states. So states are not, India is not a federation in the United States, sense of things. It does not have autonomous states that have more control over their laws, they had to fight a civil war to actually, in the north and the south, to actually build a nation. So I think we are trying to import some ideas and superimpose it on India, which is a completely different kind of nation. And that's the reason why we are the oldest surviving civilization. And we are trying to import the idea of the nation-state industrial revolution from Europe. And this is just a cover-up for what has already happened because you no longer have a defense.
Well, so let me get in Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, you are a senior advocate. I want to ask you, why is Mr. Rahul Gandhi and why is the Congress party talking about Article 1 of the Constitution and forgetting the preamble completely, which gives them the introduction to the word nation? Is this deliberate? Is this lack of understanding of the way India works, or is this just being irreverent for the sake of being irreverent?
Navika, the reason is very simple. Rahul Gandhi was told to read the Indian Constitution, but he picked up the Italian Constitution. And let me explain it in a very basic manner. I will go by what the Honorable Supreme Court said in context of Kashmir. The Honorable Supreme Court said these people were saying Kashmir should be independent. The Supreme Court made it very clear there is no vestige of sovereignty for Kashmir also outside the Constitution of India. And our Constitution of India makes it clear that India is a quasi-federal country. It is not a federal structure like the US, where the states have independent rights. Rather, in India, we can redefine the boundaries of the state. 1. 2. The citizenship, the defense, the territory of India is defined by the Constitution and it tilts towards the central system. 3rd, the residuary powers lies with the parliament. It doesn't lie with the states. But the problem is, Rahul Gandhi knows nothing about the Constitution and he has been a member of parliament, but he doesn't even know the number of seats that exist in the parliament because he said, please, can you be quiet? Can you be quiet?
Don't tell me about
Did I interrupt you?
Mr. Lokesh Jindal,
Navika, this is
Mr.
unfair.
Lokesh Jindal, Gaurav Bhatia has a sore throat. Let's not be inconsiderate. Let him complete his point. I'll give you time to rebut, my friend. Yes, Gaurav.
Yes. Navika, thank you. Now, the main important feature is the residuary power. The residuary power, unlike the US Constitution in India, lies with the parliament. But let me come to another point. आज पता चला कि kerosene oil भारतीय राजनीति का कौन है मिट्टी का तेल, and I will tell you 3 examples. Any power that is inimical to India, Rahul Gandhi is seen there with a kerosene oil. First, today he was seen with Jeremy Corbyn, who does not recognize our sovereignty and interferes in matters pertaining to Kashmir. Second, when Article 370 was abrogated, Rahul Gandhi's statement was on the front page of the dossier of Pakistan given to the UN. And third, China. Congress party signed a MOU with China. I am asking Rahul Gandhi, why is it that all powers that try to weaken the country are seen shaking hands with you? You have lust of power, but not at the cost of weakening our country. And this country under the leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji will grow stronger step by step, and you will not be able to alter that. Thank you.
Well, let me get in Mr. Karthik Reddy. Mr. Karthik Reddy, you know, people in opposition have the right to question the government, to criticize the government and question the policies. You know, that's the job of the opposition. But is it the job of the opposition to undermine India when they are abroad? Is it the job of the opposition to set a false narrative about India? Is it just ignorance, irreverence, or is it just complete arrogance that makes Mr. Rahul Gandhi say the statements that he does when he is abroad? When he says, I have a problem because in this country we are actually putting kerosene all over the country. I have a problem with this country because 20 crore people are being set aside. You know, when you're talking about 20 crore, what about the 80 crores that you failed to talk about, Mr. Rahul Gandhi? And secondly, the question is, when you go abroad and begin to make statements like that, you know, India is not a nation, India is a union of states, and Rashtra actually means kingdom. Do you think this is lack of knowledge and understanding of the idea of India?
Nice to see you again, Namika.
Nice to see you too. Good evening.
Rahul Gandhi, what he said today at Cambridge was arrogance with heavy dose of ignorance. I feel sorry for the Congress party today, honestly. As an ex-congressman who contested on a Congress ticket a few years back, I empathize with the party. It's completely lost. It's confused. And it's completely lost its plot.
Let's talk about the
Rahul Gandhi today, when you lose elections, Navika, we do not lose the love for the nation. We should remember this. अब 8 साल में पूरा देश जल जा रहा है, 8 साल से पहले पूरा ठीक था. This hypocrisy, people do notice. Today, Rahul Gandhi, what he said about India as a group of nations or whatever, it was not really coherent for me. India was a nation. India is a nation. The idea of India will always stay. As long as there was civilization, the concept of Bharat was within us. We never lost an idea of Bharat. The idea of Bharat was marked up. Mr. Jindal, please let me speak. I am on a earphone.
Mr.
I cannot hear you properly.
Which part of Mr. Karthik Reddy's statement is causing you so much discomfort? The man has said absolutely true things. The man was a part of your party and, you know, just to keep his sanity intact has walked out. And if he's showing you the mirror, maybe you should, you know, listen to some home truths, Mr. Lokesh Jindal, instead of interrupting him.
So let me finish, Mr. Lokesh. You can talk all you want. Let me finish. You do not lose the love for the nation when you lose an election. Let me say this. And this is not the first time Mr. Lokesh Rahul Gandhi does this. You remember the JNU incident? You remember when there was certain terrorist attacks, what Rahul Gandhi said? You remember right now what he's doing right now in Cambridge and doing right now with Jeremy Corbyn? Let me tell you, if you undermine the idea of India, you're undermining yourself. You should not do this, especially on foreign seas. And Congress party is suffering because of this. I have lost an election because of something like this. Let me tell you. And the nation suffers when an opposition party as large as the Congress party has to resort to this sort of things. And again, I feel sorry for somebody like you, that you know it's wrong and you have to come on national television and support your leader or take his side.
Lokesh Jindal, tell me one thing that Rahul Gandhi said which you think is right. Is India not a nation? Is India a union of states? Is India ready to burst into flames? I want to ask you, which of these three is correct? And also, while you are at it, explain to us, why is Jeremy Corbyn such a huge friend of Mr. Rahul Gandhi?
Now let me tell you, if we buy the narrative of BJP that India is a Hindu Rashtra, then please tell me as per international
Who said Hindu Rashtra? Who said Hindu Rashtra? You have an obsession with the word Hindu and Hindutva. You have an obsession, sir. Nobody said anything about a Hindu Rashtra. We just said Rashtra means nation.
Jammu Kashmir, on what basis do we lay claim over northeastern states? It is only the secular credentials of India which allow it to lay claim over sovereignty over those states which are having Muslim majority. Secondly, what about this particular government? It has problems with Muslims.
Do not degrade this to Hindu-Muslim discussion.
Now, even the death numbers they were manipulated.
The idea
now,
of
please do not
India
interrupt.
is not relegated
India
only to
walked out
discussion of Hindu and Muslim.
Following this in 2020.
Do not do this.
Russia
And please tell your peer leader that a concept of India is not 70-year-old.
Constant rhetoric. And US has moved closer towards China.
I do not
India has
understand what
lost
my friend
all
is.
India has moved closer to China. Well, Suhail said, arrogance, ignorance, you're good with adjectives. What do you think the Congress party is currently going through? Which phase?
It's going through a phase of irrelevance. And I have no truck with any political party. I can't be accused of favoring BJP, TRS, or anyone for that matter. There are three things that have gone wrong with the Congress, and even a person of Lokesh's intellect and integrity will agree with me. Number one, when you go abroad, you never bash your country. Never. A. B, when you're a representative, now, Mr. Reddy, when I need your support, I'll ask for it. But it's so kind of you to offer it.
I was a little excited.
It's so kind of you to offer it. Number two, when you go abroad, you are going abroad as a representative of the people of India. This gentleman's grandfather, as Siddharth alluded to, said the following. Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny. When the world sleeps, India will awaken to life and freedom. He didn't say a nation of states. He ends the speech again using India. Number three, I think it doesn't behove of anyone, either on this panel or elsewhere, irrespective of their political affiliations, to be exultant or to cry loud saying, oh, look at what Rahul Gandhi has done. When you go abroad, it's easy to shame your people because it's what a lot of the Western press wants to hear. They are envious, they are jealous, and they can't stomach the rise of India today as a global superpower. I'm delighted that India today is a superpower that stands tall in the comity of nations. And I'm sure even Lokesh Jindal is delighted as an Indian. We are Indians first. You could be Congress, TRS later. Number two, it is not about patriotism, it's not about jingoism, it's about maturity. But Navika, there's a psychological reference to this, which even Ashutosh will agree, because he was with another psycho person before. The psychological reference is as follows. You can be relevant and you can be discarded, but irrelevance is no man's land. Today what has happened is the Congress has become irrelevant because of a leader who refuses to believe. Lokesh, did I interrupt you? The other good thing about the Congress is that over time it has become ill-mannered. I didn't interrupt you, so give me the benefit of not being interrupted. The second thing with the Congress is that the Congress doesn't realize that even when its so-called leader goes abroad, he is a representative of the people. He's a member of India's parliament. Then he sups with the devil in the form of Jeremy Corbyn, who has questioned Kashmir, who has questioned our idea of India. And for all you people who keep talking about nationhood versus union of states, why don't you start reading Shashi Tharoor's books for a change? Why don't you read Sunil Khilnani's book about the idea of India? The problem with the Congress is that instead of leaders, they don't even have readers. So no one has read anything. Siddharth made a very important comment about the Constitution. The Constitution's heart and soul, as Nani Palkhiwala would have said, rests in its preamble. It is for the people, by the people of India. Obviously, every country is a union of states. But when you say a union of states is bigger than the country, you are suggesting three things. A, there is divisiveness, which there is none. Number two, there is subterfuge, there is none. Number three, there is backdoor entry, there is none. I want to ask my good friend Lokesh, who's not a good friend, but I think he will become a good friend because he will see reason one day, and he too will join the TRS if Karthik is willing to spare his seat for him. Let me tell you, Lokesh, what is going wrong, my friend. As an Indian, you don't bash your country when you're abroad. You just don't do it. You defend your country. Every country has its flaws. Every country has its weaknesses. But you've got to salute Narendra Modi for what he's done. Hate the man as much as you want. But for God's sake, he didn't sneak in through the back door. He doesn't belong to a family of entitlement. He doesn't come from a pedigreed surname. He won 2 goddamn elections. He hasn't said that, oh, I've just sneaked through the back door. Give the man, 1 minute, Lokesh, again, my friend, I don't know which school you went to, but the school that I went to, we were taught never interrupt someone who's speaking, especially when the person is older than you. So just follow that dictum. Fourth thing, Navika, and you've raised a very important point today on Times Now. This is not about national pride. It is about the national narrative. Sometimes we all have the ability to spin the narrative in a manner that suits us for political desperation. Today what you saw was a group of 3 people who I can see on the screen. Sam Petroda, irrelevant, 1997. Jeremy Corbyn, irrelevant, 2020. Rahul Gandhi is a perpetual Renan Martin, continuous tense, irrelevant person. You don't seek relevance through controversy. You don't seek relevance, Lokesh, through desperation. And you certainly don't seek relevance by abusing your country.
So let me get in. Let me get in, Ashutosh ji. He hasn't got a word in.
Of course,
Ashutosh, 1 minute.
He has dealt with the worst of the lot. Ask him. He has gone through fire.
Ashutosh ji, I want to ask you just 2 things. One that Suhail Seth touched upon. The other is, of course, Suhail Seth touched upon the fact on whether Rahul Gandhi is irrelevant, and you're a former journalist, former editor. I want to ask you, you would have heard stories from the Congress party that you can't tell Rahul Gandhi anything. In meetings, even in Chintan Shivers, he's on his cell phone, barely looks at leaders of his own party, doesn't engage with anybody, doesn't talk. 2 out of the 3 days of the Chintan Shivir, sat inside his room, came for meetings, went away. 3rd day came in for a dinner and mingled a bit and made one speech. I want to ask you, kingdom और राष्ट्र ये सेम है, पर्यायवाची है? Is the meaning of राष्ट्र equal to kingdom? आप बस इतना समझा दीजिए क्योंकि हिंदी में मैं आपको गुरु मानती हूँ.
मुझे हिंदी में बोलना होगा, इंग्लिश. सुहेल सेठ मेरे अच्छे दोस्त हैं, लेकिन सुहेल सेठ you should name the name. आप इतनी देर से नाम नहीं ले रहे, मुझे इस बात को लेकर थोड़ी हैरानी हो रही. थोड़ा नाम तो ले लेते तो अच्छा रहता ना, कि मैं किसके साथ नाम जिसके बारे में कह रहे थे कि मैं उनके साथ था, थोड़ा नाम लेते तो अच्छा रहता ना. खैर, anyway, let's not get into that. See, first of all, I do not agree with Suhail on this that Rahul Gandhi is a perpetual irrelevant person, because if he had been so irrelevant, Suhail would not have spent so much time talking about Rahul Gandhi, and you would not have, Navika, done a debate on this subject. So that means Rahul Gandhi is still relevant. Whatever relevance is, that's a different thing altogether. But I agree with Suhail on one particular issue. That issue is that Rahul Gandhi and his team, who's involved into this communication strategy, the marketing strategy, should learn few things from Suhail. They should appoint Suhail as one of the communication advisors. If you had gone over there and you are meeting with such people who will get a negative publicity, I think who has organized this show and who has organized this meeting with Jeremy Corbyn, I think that person should be sacked in the Congress party itself. So it's a larger issue. The larger issue with the Congress party, which has failed to understand that BJP is smarter in terms of communication, in terms of strategizing, in terms of countering the main opposition political party, and that's where they gain. Congress has to learn, and I'll request my dear friend Lokesh also, there is no point justifying which cannot be justified. If Rahul Gandhi does not understand the today ecosystem, the political ecosystem, and if he still go out and blabber here and there, and he thinks that this is a good PR exercise, I think he's living in an old world. The world has changed 2014.
Well, so let me get in Siddharth Verma. Who were the organizers? How was Rahul Gandhi there? Since you are at the university, you would know the organizers. And do you think it was Sam Pitroda who organized?
No. Sam Pitroda has no clue. Sam Pitroda can't even organize his Oyster card on the London Tube. So don't give Sam Pitroda more credit. I think Lokesh Jindal organized the whole trip, and Lokesh is now defending Rahul because Lokesh is a former Cambridge graduate. He's done his tripos.
Lokesh, would you want to respond to that?
Please allow me to reply. Sir, first of all, you told me about my school. My school taught me that you must always stand by the truth. Now, when you have been boasting about the Prime Minister, now let me tell you, the WHO claimed that 47 lakhs died, whereas the Prime Minister had outrightly lied about it. Secondly, India's credit rating agency has been going down from BAA2 to BAA3. India's HDI rank has been dropped to 131. Even RSS, it has downgraded India in the Press Freedom Index. Now, all these parameters are also international. Now, when you're talking about Joe Biden and all these other international leaders praising India, the whole world knows what is the underlying imperative underneath it. So when Rahul Gandhi is out there in London, he's trying to tell the world that how the democracy that Congress has...
May I interrupt you? Lokesh, may I interrupt you? At least I'm being polite. May I interrupt you? I'm asking you 3 questions. A, Lokesh Jindal, are you proud of being an Indian? Yes or no?
I am.
Number 1. Number 2, do you agree that India has flaws and that India can attempt to overcome those flaws?
It does, and it has overcome. It has emerged as a successful democracy.
Number 3, do you think in the Comedy of Nations, as the world's largest, second largest nation and democracy, we did a good job with COVID? Do you, Lokesh Jindal, agree or disagree?
No. We failed in the COVID.
So out of 3 questions, you have agreed to 2. It means you disagree with your leader.
Now let me tell you.
Now make sure this recording of this program is not seen by Rahul.
No, you cannot put it like this. Let me tell you what the truth is. The truth was, when the people, they were dying of oxygen, when the people, they were needing vaccines, the Prime Minister of the country was...
Lokesh Jindal, we've been through that. We've debated that several times. Today, I only want to understand from you, राष्ट्र का मतलब क्या होता है? राष्ट्र का मतलब क्या होता है? मुझे ये समझा दीजिए. Kingdom?
Madam, kingdom, Rashtra matlab, even in the Sangam age there is mention of, in the Vedic age there is mention of Rashtra, but over there the Rashtra was territory. Please understand, when I'm talking about Rashtra as a concept, it emerged in the modern times and it has undergone...
Rashtra concept. Karthik Reddy, I'm coming to you, Suhail. Karthik Reddy is raising his hand. Karthik Reddy, Rashtra, Telangana Rashtriya Samiti spokesperson wants to come in and describe what Rashtra means. I will give him the chance first. Karthik Reddy, please.
Karthik is younger than me. He will yield. The only nation state we refer to in contemporary history is Singapore. It is referred to as a nation state.
Nation state.
That is the phrase we use for Singapore. Yes, my good friend Karthik, please go right ahead.
Before we read the constitution, I think, Navika, we should also read the Puranas and the Granthas of India, the Vedas and all. The concept of India has not been new, should not be new. Whoever thinks that India is a conglomeration of states which the British left behind, you are in a hangover of the British Raj. We have always been a nation. Point 1. Point 2. Point 2. Please, Lokesh, let me speak. Point 2. Ashutosh and Suhail where you're talking about relevance and irrelevance of Rahul Gandhi. The sad part of Indian democracy today is the opposition party of India is led by a leader called Rahul Gandhi, who still is relevant because the Congress party is still relevant.
Rahul Gandhi.
If that party would have been irrelevant, we would have not been speaking of dear Rahul Gandhi. Lokesh, please have the decency, let me speak, buddy. Please, I do not understand what you're telling me. I'm sure the feed is going all scrambled. Please let me speak.
Calm down, Lokesh. You know, it irritates viewers when they can't understand, you know, when two people speak. Please.
Navika, we as TRS party, we have heavy differences with Narendra Modi. How he managed the federalism, how he is trying to arm twist our FRB limits, how he has handled the commerce and the finance of this country, how he has handled the social and economical structure of this country. We have issues with Narendra Modi. And we have not made any problems about it. And we've been open about it. And we will talk about these things in the periphery of India. The point here is, when we travel abroad, we do represent our country, whatever political affiliation might ours be. And we should hold some decorum and decency when a foreign journalist asks you a question which might be degrading to the idea of India itself. I would fight to the nail, and I'm telling you, that journalist would have a tough time. If somebody who asked me a question directly, indicating the integrity and the respect of my country, that journalist is going to have it.
Well said. Gaurav Bhatia, respond to Karthik Reddy and a very mature stand that he's taken.
No, absolutely. I think we have to agree with what he's saying, that you may have a different ideology, you may belong to a political party, but when you are on foreign soil, you are representing your country. And Rahul Gandhi also had a chance, Navika. He could have told the world that 195 crore vaccine doses have been given. He could have told the world that 80 crore Indians have been given free ration for 2 years. He could have spoken about 11 crore toilets that have been built. But he decided just to make a story which is propaganda. He said democracy in India doesn't thrive anymore. I want to ask Rahul Gandhi, if you do not trust the Election Commission of India, the Prime Minister, the judiciary, the EVMs, whom do you trust, Mr. Rahul Gandhi? And the saddest part is, he said the state of affairs in India can be compared to the state of affairs in Ukraine. Is it true? I think India was the first country to ensure that every citizen comes back, not just the Indian citizen. The Indian government was even helping citizens of other countries.
That's the point.
That is the proactive approach of the government.
The point really is, and Suhail said, I want to give you the last word. Suhail said, we may have different opinions. We may even have different meanings of Rashtra. You know, for some it may mean a nation, for some it may mean a kingdom. Well, it's their choice. The dictionary be damned. But can we have a different idea of India? Can we have a position where we look down upon India and have a negative narrative about India abroad?
Let me say this towards the end of your program. India is a civilizational legacy. India is full and has been replete with civilizational value adds. Manu in Manusmriti talked about Daan before the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates even knew what the hell Daan was. Today, like every other nation, India is evolving and will continue to evolve. Have we done well? Answer is yes. Have we stood tall and proud? The answer is yes. Have we made mistakes? The answer is yes. Are we willing to accept we've made mistakes? The answer is yes. My only plea is that I'm not asking you to be jingoistic or patriotic. Patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. All I'm asking you to do is look where we are from where we've come. And it's been a fabulous journey. Look where we will go. We will go with optimism, not with negativity. We will become even bigger if we believe in our country and in our people, not by decrying our country and decrying our people. That's my only comment.
That's what India stands for, and that's what each Indian needs to stand for. We may say that we've not achieved everything, and that will be the truth. Yes, we have miles to go before we sleep, but to say that India has kerosene all over waiting to burst into flames is really painting India so negatively that even people abroad will not believe Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1. Going across to the big Gyanvapi debate, ladies and gentlemen, the Varanasi District Court will settle on the maintainability of the plea of the Gyanvapi mosque case on Thursday, but more traces of temple are now surfacing, and also a pattern to bury the truth is emerging. After the 1936 British affidavit confirmed that Gyanvapi was not a mosque, today Times Now has accessed documented proof of Gyanvapi case. 1965 Gazette notification of the Uttar Pradesh government under the Congress rule admits that the Vishwanath temple was demolished by Aurangzeb. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it was Congress that was in power in that state at that time. The notification claims that in 1669, Aurangzeb ordered the demolition of Hindu temples and schools. The notification goes on to state that temples razed included Vishwanath and Bindu Madhava temples. It also asserts that the mosque was built on the site of each of these, 2 high minarets being built on one. This clinching documents comes just a day after we revealed the 1936 British document that stated the mosque is on government land. And that is the latest proof to tumble out of the closet. And tonight, we want to ask the question on why there is a denial on all of these facts. And joining me on this debate, along with Gaurav Bhatia and Lokesh Jindal, are Shantanu Gupta, author, and Dr. T.A. Rahmani, president of the MPCI. Dr. Rahmani, can it be denied? No. This is the Uttar Pradesh District Gazetteers, and it says very clearly here in its findings that Aurangzeb had destroyed this temple and the masjid was made over it. The minarets also came up over it later. So today, if anybody wants to say ye to mandir tha hi nahi, ye to hamesha se masjid tha, will you take back those words and will you finally at least admit that the proof that is being presented in courts is not a figment of anybody's imagination?
Navika, everything is in public domain. There are so many records which are already in public domain. Nobody can hide or nobody can reveal. It is there, it is present, and I never said that the Kashi Vishwanath temple for so many reasons was not demolished by the Aurangzeb. I never said it, and I will never say it. I'm a truthful person. But I want to say one more thing, that a vibrant nations do live in the present and look for the future. And the failed nations take refuge in the history. So we don't want to be a failed nation. We have to be a vibrant nation to live positively in the present era and to look in the future. The correction of the history is never a possible thing, and it never leads us to any success. That's what my contention is. I never said that the Kashi Vishwanath temple was not demolished. It was demolished by Aurangzeb.
So then,
this is a truth. But there were reasons. Can we have the courage to discuss those reasons?
About the बाबरी मस्जिद, क्यों वहां तो मस्जिद में नमाज होती भी नहीं थी, तो इतनी अटैचमेंट क्यों थी? वो तो पुराना था.
That was a different thing.
No, why different thing?
You cannot compare Babri Masjid with Kashi Vishwanath.
Why different? Everything that is dear to you is different. Everything that is dear to the other side is not different.
No,
Shantanu Gupta, for Dr. Rahmani today, who's walked into a trap saying we are a modern country, we should live in the present. But their attachment to Babri Masjid is allowed even though there was no namaz.
And look for the future.
Respond to him.
Navika.
Yes.
Navika, I think I'll congratulate Professor Saab. At least he agreed finally
that I think unless all the scholars, all the politicians from the Muslim side who ever came on any TV debate which we are doing from Ayodhya case to now, they always were in denial mode. कुछ तोड़ा ही नहीं है, बाबर तो आया नहीं था, कुछ तोड़ा ही नहीं था, औरंगजेब ने तो कुछ करा ही नहीं है, सब अच्छे थे, औरंगजेब महान था, अकबर महान था. At least he started agreeing now. I think that's first mammoth change. Now I think you should take an early flight tomorrow, go to Hyderabad and convince your friend, very good friend Asaduddin Owaisi कि अकबर ने तोड़ा था, बाबर ने तोड़ा था, सब ने तोड़ा था. So औरंगजेब ने तोड़ा था. I think first that's a very good acceptance by Rahmani ji. And now I think it's very easily, as soon as it will travel to the court, any court, from junior court to high court to Supreme Court, the verdict will follow the line as it followed in Ayodhya.
At least I am not a liar.
But thank you that you agreed finally. That needs courage. I know that needs courage within your own community. That needs courage. I don't need to go anybody. And hats off to you. And hats off to you, Rahmani, that you agreed finally that Aurangzeb was a terrorist. Aurangzeb was a terrorist. He broke multiple temples of Hindu faith. And good, and hats off to you that you agreed finally.
I'm not talking about every 3,000 mosques which
bottom line, Dr. Rahmani, you said we should live in the present. Then were you wrong when you were crying over your attachment with Babri Masjid? Were you wrong then? Simple question.
My attachment in Babri Masjid is still there. And I will keep it till
even though we all live in the present, Hindus have attachment to the Kashi Vishwanath temple. How can you question that? How can you question that? How can you question Hindus' attachment to the Kashi Vishwanath temple? And let me get in Lokesh Jindal. Lokesh Jindal, I want to show you the Gazette notification. आप तो उस पार्टी से हैं जो कहते हैं कि वहां शिवलिंग नहीं फव्वारा मिला था. तो मैं इसका बता दूं आपको, यहां पर दिया हुआ है पेज नंबर 56 पर very clearly, when certain priests were harassed by local Muslim officers who also wanted to remove them from temples of which they were in charge, they appealed to the emperor, who issued a farman dated February 28, 1659 to the Faujdar of Varanasi to the effect that the priests of existing shrines were not to be disturbed in the legitimate discharge. In the same year, Aurangzeb got the old temple of Kirti Bisheshar destroyed and built on that side with its material the Alamgiri Mosque, which stands near the temple. This was one, and the other references according to the Tarikhe.
So the Gyanvapi Mosque was actually a Alamgiri Mosque. The name of Gyanvapi Mosque is an Alamgiri Mosque or Jama Masjid Banaras. You must have to correct this here through this Gazette.
ओहो, ज्ञानवापी आपने आलमगीरी से ज्ञानवापी आपने रखा था ना?
ये किसने रखा था वो भी गजट में है.
नहीं तो गैजेट में है, और गैजेट में मंदिर डिस्ट्रॉय करके मॉस्क बने ये भी आपको पता है. लेकिन आप कहते हैं आप मॉडर्न इंडिया में रहिए, आप पुरानी बातें मत पूछिए. लोकेश जिंदल, why would you still call it a fountain when all of these evidences are in front of you?
Navika, I would like to ask one question. If you talk about the Brihadeshwar temple, the Shivling, it was brought by Rajaraja after defeating the Rashtrakutas. Now please tell me, tomorrow, if the Rashtrakutas territory from Manyakhet, they start demanding the Shivling, would you be accompanying by it? Would you agree when the Shaivites, they persecuted the Jains? When Pushyamitra Shung, he persecuted the Buddhists? Would you be again restructuring when the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites, they were fighting with each other? How far will it go? Please tell me. How far are you going to take this conflict? Are you going to simply limit it to Aurangzeb, or are you going to go?
I think the Hindu side very clearly told you that Ayodhya, Kashi and Mathura, and after that close it, but you didn't. You trampled on their demands. Gaurav Bhatia, is the Congress party pretending it doesn't know where the Hindus wanted to stop this? Where the Hindus wanted to stop this? Is he now saying that these are new demands that have come up? Gaurav Bhatia, please respond to Mr. Lokesh Jindal.
You know, Navika, first of all, historical wrongs have to be corrected, going by rule of law. But the sad part is, the self-proclaimed Muslim party, which is the Congress party, its senior leader, Ashok Gehlot, what did he say? He said, Tamasha band karo. Tamasha. Can you be quiet, please? Please. Navika, this is very unfair. I think he's a very ill-mannered panelist.
Please, I've already told you, the man has a sore throat. Please do not challenge him. Please. 1 minute. You want to respond? I'll give you time. Yes. Gaurav Bhatia, go on.
Navika, I was just pointing out Ashok Gehlot shamelessly saying that ye tamasha band karo. P. Chidambaram saying the status should not be altered. Would they have the courage to say this to the Muslims? No, they wouldn't. And how they divide the Hindus by talking about Lingayats, Shaivites, Vaishnavites. Would you have the courage to ever talk about Sunnis, Shias, Ahmadiyas, Barelvis? No, you wouldn't. Because unka vote bank pura chahiye. Hindus ko divide karna hai. Coming to Mr. Taslim Rahmani, he says vibrant nations don't live in the past. Do you remember how many people celebrated when a museum was converted to a mosque, Hagia Sophia? And India has nothing to do with the Hagia Sophia mosque. But these people were celebrating in India. Navika, they preach something else, but they practice just the opposite. And that is the problem with these people. And they do not have faith in the judiciary of the country. If law-abiding Hindus are going by the constitution and asking for their rights, why are these people pained?
That's the whole point. The matter is in courts. The hearing comes up on the 26th of May. What proofs will prevail, what the courts will decide is really something that we will all need to wait for. But those who are not willing to compromise on their own faith, can they expect others to give up theirs? That's what this is all about. So should we just wait for how the Apex Court and the Varanasi courts address this whole issue, the whole claims made by both sides, and give its verdict? Because in a law-abiding country, people will have to go with the letter of the law. Before I leave you, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I feel poets and those who can say it in poetry say it better than anyone else. This is one piece of poetry written by Manoj Muntashir and just uploaded a short while ago on social media that caught my eye. I wanted to just share it with you, ladies and gentlemen. Manoj Muntashir.
मस्जिद है या शिवाला ये सच बता ही देंगे, पूछेगी जब अदालत पत्थर गवाही देंगे। हम जोड़ने के कायल, तुम तोड़ने में माहिर, मेहमान तुमको माना और तुमने हमको काफिर। बस ये बता दो खंजर क्यों पीठ में उतारा, क्यों सोमनाथ तोड़ा, मथुरा को क्यों उजाड़ा। शंकर का जुर्म क्या था, कान्हा ने क्या किया था, वनवास राम जी को बाबर ने क्यों दिया था। 1300 साल हमने यही सोचते गुजारे, क्यों गर्दनें उतारी, क्यों फूके घर हमारे। सारी जवाबदेही तय होगी धीरे धीरे, हर हर का नाद होगा गंगा नदी के तीरे। सोया हुआ सनातन चैतन्य है, सजग है, वो वक्त कुछ अलग था, ये वक्त कुछ अलग है। खबरों से खींच कर हम लाएंगे सच तुम्हारे, आएंगे कटघरे में औरंगजेब सारे। सारा हिसाब एक दिन जिल्ले इलाही देंगे, पूछेगी जब अदालत पत्थर गवाही देंगे।
You were watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned. Times now. Action begins here.
For the last 2 years, the world has been relentlessly fighting the COVID-19 pandemic.
As the countries across the globe prioritize vaccinations to keep the next wave of COVID at bay, India also rolled out precautionary jabs this year to achieve herd immunity against the virus. While COVID has not risen substantially in India in the last few months, the pandemic has not yet faded. India has remained on guard, but vaccination among children remains low and is significantly less talked about.
Immunizing the kids will not only check the spread of the asymptomatic infections, who can act as silent hosts for the virus, and which will lead to again spread in the society, but again it can also mitigate the severity, the intensity of the infection in children.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. You were watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned. Times now. Action begins here.
Good evening and welcome. You are watching the News Hour Agenda. I am Padmaja Joshi. Today, the District Court in Varanasi decided that it will hear the case on the maintainability of the Hindu side's plea first on Thursday, but the devotees' dogged search of truth continues. How? Another batch of petitions has now been filed saying that while you decide that case, allow us access to worship Adi Vishweshwar inside the Gyanvapi compound. The reason why these petitioners are so dogged is because they believe that they have history, proof and truth on their side. And the funny thing is that a lot of the truth that they depend on comes from people who today call the Gyanvapi demand nothing more than the BJP and the right's propaganda. Now imagine if I told you that the Congress government at one point spoke in detail. In fact, it documented how Aurangzeb pulled down temples in Varanasi and that the Gyanvapi mosque stands on the ruins of temples. That is what has been said in a Gazette that was published by none other than the Uttar Pradesh government in 1965. Who was the chief minister at that time? Sucheta Kriplani. Which party did she belong to? The Congress. And what does this Gazette says? The Gazette says, and I quote, in 1669, Aurangzeb ordered the demolition of Hindu temples and schools. The Faujdar of Varanasi pulled down a number of temples in the city. The temples razed included Vishwanath and Bindu Madhav temples. A mosque was then built on the site of each temple, 2 high minarets being built on one. And this is just a part of it. Ahead on the show, I will speak in greater detail about what else this Gazette by the Congress government have to say. But first, let's fast forward to 2022 and see what the same Congress says now about the demand made by Gyanvapi devotees. The Congress started by claiming that this entire demand is nothing more than the BJP's agenda and a way to mobilize and unite Hindus who are groaning under the burden of price rise. Some even claimed, including the party's Minority Affairs chief in Uttar Pradesh, that pliant media and a strange judge have successfully converted a fountain into a shivling. So how is it that the same party whose government made official, whose government knew, for heaven's sake, whose government put in black and white the proof of what happened at Varanasi, is today dismissing it as fiction and propaganda?
He's very right. Bharatiya Janata Party and all leaders of Bharatiya Janata Party, all of them they are doing politics on Ram Temple, nothing else. Now Ram Temple is under construction, so they have created a Banaras issue, Banaras Masjid issue. In next election, they can go to Mathura for this purpose because they are unable to do anything for the country. So they want to divide the country.
गुजरात कांग्रेस के एक पूर्व अध्यक्ष ने अपने कार्यक्रम में बयानबाजी करते हुए कहा कि गुजरात हो या पूरा देश, भगवान राम के नाम पर जो ईंटें इकट्ठी की गई थी, उन ईंटों पे कुत्ते पेशाब करते हैं और जो पैसा भगवान राम के नाम पर इकट्ठे किए गए उसका दुरुपयोग होता है। सवाल ये है कि भगवान राम के मंदिर के साथ अनेक लोगों की आस्था जुड़ी हुई है और ऐसे समय में कांग्रेस के नेता ने जिस प्रकार ये बयानबाजी की है उससे सिर्फ हिंदुओं को नहीं लेकिन जो भी भगवान राम की मर्यादा में मानते हैं, जो भगवान राम की आस्था में मानते हैं, उनकी आस्थाओं को ठेस पहुंचाने का काम कांग्रेस के इस नेता ने किया है।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Guru Prakash, national spokesperson of the BJP, joins us live along with lawyer Rizwan Ahmad, Danish Qureshi, political analyst, Brij Mohan Srivastava, spokesperson of NCP. My first question is to leader of the Congress, Qamar Zaman Chaudhary. Let's assume that the BJP is raking this up in 2022 because they are in search of an issue after Ram Mandir. Then why did the Congress bring up the issue of Gyanvapi and put it in a Gazette, Qamar Zaman Chaudhary, in 1965? What were they trying to do?
Padmaja, neither you were of that age, neither I was of that age in 1965 when this was put up in the Gazette. What was the purpose of the Gazette that time was to document in the history events that were happening in the history. That's a very fine thing. But now in 2022, what we are doing, we have suddenly realized that Aurangzeb has done some evils in the past and those evils and those crimes have to be corrected in 2022. How foolish this country can be. And
if it is foolish, then your government in Uttar Pradesh was equally foolish. Why did they put it in a government gazette? If talking about history and historical wrongs and seeking redress is foolish, then your chief minister in UP was also foolish.
Yeah, of course it is foolish. The judge cannot be foolish. No, Padmaja.
That's a very uncharitable thing to say about the first woman chief minister in our country. Sucheta Kriplani was the first woman chief minister in our country, and you're saying that basically she was foolish, who was sitting around getting a government gazette that talks about how the temple of Adi Vishweshwar was pulled down by Aurangzeb.
I said people in 2022, the entire ecosystem is being foolish in raking up an issue which happened some 400 years ago.
If an issue can happen, if an issue can be raised in 1965, why can't it be raised in 2022? There's only a difference in 55 years. If you can raise an issue 350 years after it happened, then why can't somebody else raise it 400 years after it happened? मतलब आप 350 years में करें, then what's it's the cutoff or something? 350 years you can raise the issue.
Let me speak. No. No. If it is a one-to-one debate, I agree. If it is not, then please let me reply also. Because there are other panelists also waiting.
What very considerate of you. But again, my central question is that how is it, sir, that something that your party acknowledged in writing no less, in a government gazette no less, in 1965, suddenly becomes a figment of somebody's imagination in 2022. Let me actually quote to you what a member of your party in Uttar Pradesh has said. Just a second.
Of the country?
Sir, now you don't go to constitution. Now let us go one by one. So let me start with the Gazette notification. Let me quote to you what a member of your party in Uttar Pradesh has said. He is a member of the Minority Commission in Uttar Pradesh, and here is what he says. He says that there is no temple. It is only the pliant media and a strange judge who has suddenly turned a fountain into a shivling. He though has discounted there was ever a temple, even though your party documented it 55 years ago. How is that, sir?
That's what I was trying to tell you. There may be historical wrongs in the past. Nobody is denying that. But claiming a shivling, a fountain to be a shivling, is another side of the story. But you must listen to me just 10 more seconds.
Okay.
When the civil judge in the Delhi Qutub Minar case has clearly stated the wrongs of the past cannot be the basis for disturbing the present peace, and if it is allowed, the fabric of our constitution and its secular character will be damaged. The first and foremost thing, we have Asta in our constitution, the rule of the law. When the parliament has enacted the 91 Places of Worship Act, that means any such disputes will not be looked after 1947.
Sir, we will not get into the Places of Worship Act, because the Places of Worship Act does not stop anyone from determining religious character. It has said by the Supreme Court of our country. My simple question, okay, let me make it very easy for you. Let me make it very easy for you. Let me make it extremely easy for you. Do you, as a member of the Congress, believe that the Gyanvapi stands on top of, the mosque stands on top of a temple? Yes or no?
No. I don't believe it.
You don't believe it?
I don't believe it, because we were handed over in 1947 the Gyanvapi Masjid.
Okay.
The Gyanvapi Masjid stands today till 2022.
To hell with this Gazette notification. To hell with what history has said. Kamar Zaman Chaudhary says, what I see, I believe, and in 2022, I see mosque. So, all the government gazettes, you can put in the dustbin. Guru Prakash.
I never said that.
At the outset, let me congratulate your research team. Let me congratulate your research team. कमर जवान जी अब सुन लीजिए आप भाई, बीच में बोल रहे हैं, अभी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ रूल ऑफ लॉ कर रहे थे, बीच में बोल रहे हैं. Listen to me very carefully, sir. There is a debate. It's a civil debate.
अरे गुरु प्रकाश जी,
it's very important for us.
Sir, 1 second, please. You know, it is amazing. Just a second. Before Guru Prakash continues, Mr. Chaudhary, I would request your silence, because as an upstanding citizen who has given a very moving speech about how he believes in the Constitution, you said, I believe in Constitution, but here is a government document that says very clearly what happened in Varanasi. You say, but I don't believe it. You believe in Constitution, but you don't believe in a government document.
That we have already decided.
It's okay. It's okay. You can selectively believe in parts of what our Constitution allows. Now let Guru Prakash also come in. We are already 10 minutes into the show. At least let him get a word in edgewise. Yes, Guru Prakash. Sir, please, Guru Prakash.
This is sheer selectivity, like you pointed out. I will believe in this judgment. I will not believe in that judgment. You don't respect the rule of law, you don't respect the constitution, you don't respect the institution of the constitution. Any judicial pronouncement that suits you, you will have faith in the judiciary. Any judicial pronouncement that goes against you, you won't have faith in judiciary. And also, Mr. Kamar Jawan, let me remind you that the 1991 Places of Worship Act was nothing but an act of minority appeasement. It is the Congress party that has institutionalized minority appeasement in this country. And even back then, our leader, Uma Bharti, has categorically asked for an exemption of Mathura and Kashi Gyanvapi. Why don't you mention that? Our leader, Lal Krishna Advani ji, mentioned that it's not going to solve any problem. It is not going to solve any problem. Now you cannot talk in between. Listen to me very carefully. You don't have respect in constitution. You don't believe in a civil debate. If you want to have a debate and discussion, then listen out, people. It's not Sharia we are following. There is a democracy in this country. Listen to me very carefully. Places of Worship Act can be repealed like any other act. In the last 8 years, we have repealed more than 1,500 colonial laws, and even this can be repealed. So don't base your argument on that. You're just showing the mindset of minority appeasement and cater to that. How can you term a matter of faith as foolishness? How do you have the courage to say that it's a matter of faith? It's foolish for you? What is foolish for you? There is a shivling that's been found by the court, by the survey report. You don't believe in that?
Repeal the law.
How can you say such a thing?
Come back with
this
a
is
new
just
law
so outlandish.
and claim all your mandirs into...
No, and if you really must, sir, if today also you want people to forget what history has shown, then you should have gone back before you brought in Places of Worship Act and burnt these government gazettes. You should have taken them out of the record and you should have put them in the dustbin, just like you put the right of an entire community to go and appeal to court. Now, let me start quoting. Let me bring you in, Mr. Brijmohan Srivastav, because you're from the NCP. Today, the NCP chief, Sharad Pawar, said, let me quote, Mr. Sharad Pawar today said, for 400 years, the Gyanvapi mosque has existed with the Kashi Vishwanath temple. Nobody had a problem. Nobody had a problem. Nobody even spoke about it. And yet, sir, barely 55 years ago, your dear ally, the Congress, did speak about it. And what did they say? Let me quote from page number 90, where they say that the Raj of Banaras, King Jayachandra, called Raj of Banaras by some historians, reigned successfully for several years but was defeated and killed in 1194 AD in the Battle of Chandwar by the armies of Shahabuddin Ghori, who immediately after sacked Kannauj. Soon after, the latter's general Kutubuddin Aibak attacked and captured the city of Varanasi after a few centuries, described as the center of the country of Hind. It is said that more than 1,000 temples of this place, including the famous shrine of Adi Vishweshwar, were destroyed and mosques were built on their sites. Merely 55 years ago, Brijmohan ji, your ally was speaking about it. तो अगर ये सत्य है, तो आपको मानना पड़ेगा कि Gyanvapi mosque is on the ruins of the temple of Adi Vishweshwar. It is not the RSS saying it. It is not the BJP saying it. It is a Congress government that said it. Now what?
मीनाक्षी, आपने मेरे आदरणीय नेता शरद पवार जी का आधा ही स्टेटमेंट कोट किया, पूरा मैं कर देता हूं। उन्होंने ये कहा कि ये बात सच है कि 400 साल से वहां पर नमाज हो रही थी और पिछले अभी इस पूरे पीरियड में कभी किसी ने कोई मुद्दा नहीं उठाया। लेकिन चूंकि अब ये मामला कोर्ट के हाथों में है और हमको अपने देश के कानून पर पूरा विश्वास है, तो अभी इसके ऊपर पब्लिक डिबेट करने की जगह हमें कोर्ट के इस आदेश का इंतजार करना चाहिए कि इसमें कोर्ट क्या फैसला करता है।
सर, आपको पता है ना कि इस सेंचुरी की शुरुआत से लगातार लोग डिमांड कर रहे हैं कि ज्ञानवापी में पूजा शुरू कराई जाए। 2022 में ये ना ये केस शुरू हुआ है, ना ये पहला केस है, ना पहली बार ये मुद्दा उठाया गया है। आजादी के पहले से लोग कोर्ट के सामने जाते रहे हैं और उन्होंने इस बात का हक मांगा है। So neither has this happened in 22 as a demand, nor has the proof been put out there in 22 for the first time. सर, मेरा नाम पद्मजा है। थैंक यू। आप थोड़ा कंफ्यूज्ड है, बट सच ये है कि मेरा नाम पद्मजा है और सच ये भी है कि ये मुद्दा पिछले 100 साल से चल रहा है कोर्ट में और बाहर।
पद्मजा जी, I totally agree with you. People are raising this issue since so many years. Yes. It's okay, but now this matter is with in the hands of court. So then why to discuss on the public forum? Why the need of it? If you are having this proof, go and produce those facts in the
It
court.
is being produced.
Who is
It is
stopping
being produced.
you?
Repeated affidavits
If
have been put,
anybody
and the
is having
reason,
this
sir,
fact,
I'll tell you why it is being discussed. It is being discussed because there are people out there जो अभी भी कह रहे हैं कि भाई ये तो कुछ है नहीं.
But मैं आपसे
आज आपको बताती हूँ ना, आज आपके जो अलायंस मेंबर्स हैं, राशिद अलवी क्या कहते हैं? कहते हैं कि देखिए जी, बीजेपी ने अयोध्या का मुद्दा भुनाया, अयोध्या के बाद अब इन्होंने ज्ञानवापी पकड़ लिया है. अगर सच में बीजेपी को भुनाना था, then this has to be the worst timing possible. अभी यूपी के इलेक्शन गए, सब लोग कह रहे थे यूपी हारने वाले हैं. अगर इनको भुनाना ही था तो 2024 के बीच में क्यों भुना रहे? उनको तो 2023 में उठाना चाहिए था.
के नाम पर अभी कितने मंदिर तोड़े, ये तो बताइए आप देश को.
अरे आप खुद अपनी बात को डिस्प्रूव कर रहे हैं कि अगर सच में बीजेपी हर किसी ऐरे गहरे नथु खैरे मंदिर को उठा करके मुद्दा बना रही होती, then it would have stood with every temple, ना? But sir, a place of worship and a place of belief is very different from just any temple or any shrine. A place of worship, there can be only one Krishna Janmabhoomi. You cannot have one person being born in different places. There can be only one Ram Janmabhoomi. You cannot have different Ram Janmabhoomis. And that is why, if a devotee is going to court, that cannot be dismissed as propaganda, and that is the basic point.
मुल्क में हर धर्म के लोग रहते हैं, हर एक का अपने अपने धर्म में विश्वास है,
और हर किसी का हक है कि वो कोर्ट जाए without being called a liar.
हर आदमी का अपने धर्म
भाई
में
जब
विश्वास
जैसे ही कोई मुंह उठा के बोलता है कि मेरे को राइट चाहिए टू प्रे रिजवान अहमद, he or she is told बीजेपी एजेंट, आरएसएस, संघ, राइट विंग, if nothing else bigot, कि you are spreading communal disharmony because you are a bigot. Why? Were the people who were talking about this proof from historians pre-independence to a Congress government, were they all bigots when they said, and let me quote from another part now, because every single piece of evidence should be underlined multiple times. Now we have page 56 of this Gazette, which says, Rizwan Ahmad, in 1659, Aurangzeb got the old temple of Kirti Bisheshwar destroyed and built on that site with some of its material, the Alamgiri Mosque, which stands near the temple of Ratneshwar and bears an Arabic inscription in which the date of construction is given as 1068 AH, that's 1659 AD. Rizwan Ahmad. So clearly either people who are pleading for Gyanvapi temple today are relying on proof like this, or the Congress government was also bigoted and an agent of the BJP.
Yeah, thank you so much. Coming to my point and noting point which people have been speaking, someone opened his argument and he said that Padmaja, you would have been very young at that time or not born, and I might have been very young at that time जब ये Gazette लिखा गया था. It was a very stupid argument. By this standard, we also cannot discuss preamble and the discussions of the Constituent Assembly and the Constitution, because जब वो लिखा गया था तब भी हम नहीं थे. So people should not make such stupid arguments that history should be brushed under the carpet and fact should be brushed under the carpet, क्योंकि उस time हम पैदा नहीं हुए थे. Number one. Number two. Somebody talked about corridor, about how many temples have been destroyed.
Sir, एक second, please. Mr. Chaudhary, you opened and then you spoke at length. Now let Rizwan Ahmad speak and then you respond. बताइए, Rizwan Ahmad.
Yeah. So somebody said that कि काशी विश्वनाथ में कितने मंदिर तोड़े गए, blah blah blah. मुझे एक बात समझ में नहीं आती, जब वो मंदिर तोड़े जा रहे थे, why didn't you approach the court? Why didn't you find a file a PIL कि उन मंदिरों का डिस्ट्रक्शन रोका जाए जो as per you नरेंद्र मोदी कर रहे थे? Number two. Number three, Padmaja, coming to my point, the Supreme Court in the latest judgment, or the order I would say, has categorically written that ascertainment of religious character of the place is not barred by the Places of Worship Act 1991. Now I think the thing should be put square and fair and square. A petition should be filed with the district court in Banaras that the entire area, the entire prangan of Mandir and Masjid both should be sealed with ceremonial prayers or puja padati allowed, handed over to archaeological survey, it should continue for 6 months, and then finally after 6 months a complete report should come up basing on the evidences which we have right now. Now it is a stage true that this cannot be discussed further. Let us ask the entire Prangalan to be taken over by archaeological survey, and the people who are saying that wo fountain hai, so it is wonderful. Fountain is not a place of astha, it is a scientific apparatus. So that archaeological survey will also prove it is a fountain.
In fact, many people would argue that we are arguing right now, Guru Prakash, that how to ascertain the religious character. But if you are looking at this government document, the religious character is clear as it is. The survey report, even if we discount that, here is a proper government document that already states what is the religious character. Let me again quote to you another part from this, which says, on April 9, 1669, Aurangzeb issued orders to the provincial governor for the demolition of Hindu temples and schools, which the Faujdar of Varanasi carried out by pulling down a number of temples in the city, including those of Vishwanath and Bindu Madhav. A mosque was built on the site of each, 2 high minarets being built on one. The religious character is right here. It says 2 temples were pulled down, mosque was built, 2 high minarets on one. Doesn't this outline religious character?
पद्मजा जी, ये मंदिर तो बहुत पहले टूटे थे. जो अभी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर के लिए मंदिर टूटे हैं, उन पे भी तो बात कर लीजिए. ये तो अभी हुआ है हमारी आंखों के देखते हुए.
ब्रिजमोहन जी, आप बिल्कुल जाइए, पीआईएल कीजिए. The funny thing is, okay, so let me, since you raise that point, ब्रिजमोहन जी, आप ये बताइए, आपको काशी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर में जो टेम्पल हटाए गए, जो कि by the way encroachment थे, you would be very pained to know, because I went to Kashi at the time that construction was happening. Many of those temples were encroaching on ancient temples, जहां पर टॉयलेट्स हटाए गए और उनके पीछे से शिवलिंग निकल करके आए. But let me ask you this, since you are rightly very pained कि उस मंदिर को तोड़ा क्यों गया, going by your same pain and agony, you should immediately ask कि ज्ञानवापी में मंदिर को क्यों तोड़ा गया. आपको अगर 2020 में कॉरिडोर के लिए एक टेंपल हटाने में इतना दर्द हो रहा है, तो आपको ज्ञानवापी के लिए उतना दर्द क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? You should be the first one. The NCP should be at the forefront to say कि जो मंदिर तोड़ा गया है उसको हैंड ओवर कर दिया जाए. Why don't you feel the same pain for the Adi Vishweshwar मंदिर which was broken in ज्ञानवापी? ब्रिजमोहन जी, आपको उस मंदिर के लिए दर्द क्यों नहीं हो रहा है?
कि आखिर ये विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर के नाम पर हमारे मंदिर क्यों तोड़े गए, इस पे बहस होनी चाहिए देश में.
I just don't get it. आपको विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर के लिए जो मंदिर हटाए गए, उनके लिए अगर दर्द है, ब्रिजमोहन जी, आपसे मैं सिंपल सवाल पूछ रही हूँ, फिर तो आपको डबली आउटरेज्ड होना चाहिए कि काशी विश्वनाथ में, कि काशी में ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद को मंदिर पे क्यों बनाया गया?
उनका क्या?
ब्रिजमोहन जी, आप मानते हैं कि ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद एक मंदिर के ऊपर खड़ी है? ब्रिजमोहन जी, क्या आप
जवाब देना चाहिए सरकार को?
ब्रिजमोहन जी,
जवाब देना चाहिए काशी के लोग.
ब्रिजमोहन जी, क्या एनसीपी मानती है कि ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद मंदिर के ऊपर खड़ी है? क्या एनसीपी मानती है कि ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद मंदिर के ऊपर खड़ी है?
हमारा कहना बिल्कुल साफ है. हमारा बिल्कुल कहना साफ है कि आज चूंकि ये सारा मामला कोर्ट में है, कोर्ट को फैसला करने दीजिए. जो कोर्ट फैसला करेगा, हमारा देश के कानून में विश्वास है. जिनका विश्वास नहीं है वो डिबेट कर.
सर, मैं आपको तथ्य दिखा रही हूँ, तथ्य के आधार पे आपसे एक सिंपल सवाल पूछ रही हूँ. क्या क्योंकि आपको इतना दर्द हो रहा था काशी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर के चलते जो टेम्पल्स हटाए गए उनके लिए, सिर्फ उसके चलते आपसे पूछ रही हूँ, क्या आप मानते हैं कि ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद किसी मंदिर के ऊपर खड़ी है?
तो आपसे कह रहा हूँ, आप उन लोगों को सलाह दीजिए कि वो लोग जाके कोर्ट में पेश करें.
Okay, Guru Prakash, religious character. Let's talk on religious character because it's quite clear Brij Ji will not take a stand. Is the religious character not clear?
No, पद्मजा, मुझे लगता है कि ब्रिजमोहन जी अयोध्या के कार सेवा में भी गए थे. ये जितनी घड़ियाली आंसू यहाँ बहा रहे हैं, द एंटायर कंट्री, नहीं, आप लगता है कार सेवा में गए थे क्या? आप कोर्ट जाइए ना, ये घड़ियाली आंसू बहा करके आप प्रूफ क्या करना चाहते हैं? आप हिंदुओं की आस्था का मजाक बना रहे हैं यहाँ पे। एनसीपी के नेता नहीं, आप मंच पे थे लगता है, आप मंच पे थे लगता है, जब अयोध्या का राम मंदिर का आंदोलन चल रहा था आप मंच पे थे क्या? मंच पे थे क्या? नहीं, आप मंच पे थे, आपके नेता शरद पवार। अभी बीच में बोल रहे हो आप। अरे एनसीपी में नवाब मलिक जैसे लोग हैं,
आप क्या कर रहे थे बताइए देश को?
नवाब मलिक जैसे लोग हैं एनसीपी,
आप क्या कर रहे थे उस समय बताइए देश को?
कार सेवा में
आप क्या कर रहे थे?
घड़ियाली आंसू बहाना बंद करिए महाराज, घड़ियाली आंसू बहाना बंद करिए।
आज आपको तकलीफ हो रही है,
घड़ियाली आंसू बहाना बंद करिए। आप जो घड़ियाली आंसू बहा रहे हैं पूरा देश देख रहा है, घड़ियाली आंसू बहा रहे हैं पूरा देश देख रहा है।
देश के अंदर
एनसीपी वाले लोग कार सेवा में झूठ बोल रहे हो अभी आप। अरे आपके नेता आपको
ब्रिजमोहन जी आपसे एक छोटी सी बात कहूंगी। अभी कई ऐसे संगठन हैं जिन्होंने बोला है कि पुणे में 2 ऐसे मंदिर हैं जिनको तोड़ करके वहां मजार बनाई गई। आपको अगर बुरा लग रहा है काशी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर के बारे में, पहले पुणे की तरफ भी एक नजर जरूर डाल लीजिएगा, पुणे पे भी थोड़ी सी नजर जरूर डाल लीजिएगा, पर इनको बोलने दीजिए, अब तू मैंने नहीं करते हैं। रिलीजियस कैरेक्टर की बात की जा रही है, आज मामला आकर के फंसा है गुरु प्रकाश। व्हाट इज द रिलीजियस कैरेक्टर? एवरीवन कीप सेइंग कि ओहो वी हैव टू डिटरमिन रिलीजियस कैरेक्टर। ये शिवलिंग नहीं, ये फव्वारा है। What is the फव्वारा? When in a government document is saying कि मंदिर गिराया मस्जिद बनाया, या तो मंदिर में फव्वारा था जिसको गिरा करके फिर पता नहीं मॉस्क केम इन। गुरु प्रकाश
No, Padmaja, this simile is preposterous, and we have seen on Twitter what sort of campaign was unleashed for a matter of our faith. But let me remind my friend from the Nationalist Congress party that he might be thrown out of his party for taking such a Hinduvadi stand. So please be careful, please be cautious. इतने आवेश में मत आइए आप, जो आप घड़ियाली आंसू बहा रहे हैं, आपकी पार्टी के लोग आपको देख रहे होंगे. Let me make this very categorically clear that whatever has happened in the name of minority appeasement, you have been hand in glove with the Congress party. You have been hand in glove with the Congress party. Now you are saying in between because you have no logic, you have no rationality, you will not speak for the temples that has been destroyed in Pune. Why don't you speak for that? आप बताइए पुणे में जो मंदिर टूटा है उसके बीहाफ में कौन बोलेगा? काशी विश्वनाथ में जो रेनोवेशन हुआ है, रेनोवेशन से कितने लाख लोगों को लाभ हुआ है वो आपको नहीं दिख रहा है, लेकिन रेनोवेशन में क्या हुआ उसमें राजनीति ढूंढ रहे हो आप, घड़ियाली आंसू बहा रहे हो आप. मैं सलाह देता हूं आपको, बिना मांगी सलाह दे रहा हूं, इतना हिंदूवादी स्टैंड मत लीजिए आप. ना तो आपके एनसीपी के नेता आपको खुश होंगे, ना ही लोग खुश होंगे. लोगों के सामने आप एक्सपोज्ड हैं. यू आर हैंड इन ग्लव विद द कांग्रेस पार्टी व्हेन इट कम्स टू माइनॉरिटी अपीजमेंट. वी नो द नेशन नोज हु इज नवाब मलिक, सो यू डोंट नीड टू क्लैरिफाई.
हम तो देश के कानून में विश्वास करते हैं,
as far as that is concerned, it is very clear and it is very loud. आपको विश्वास है तो आप पहले नहीं बता रहे हैं. तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट को आप अपने टेस्ट के अनुसार मानेंगे और नहीं मानेंगे. अरे पुणे में जाके देखो क्या होता है. एनसीपी के बात करते हैं आप, क्या आधारहीन बात करते हो, तर्कहीन बात करते हो. आधारहीन और तर्कहीन बात करते हो, पुणे में बात नहीं करोगे आप. सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सम्मान करना है तो पूरा करो. जो निर्णय सूट करता है उसको एक्सेप्ट करोगे, जो निर्णय विरोध में होगा उसको सूट नहीं करोगे.
तो ग्रेट, तब तो बात सेटल हो गई ना. ब्रिजमोहन जी, अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि हम देश का कानून मानते हैं, देश के कानून के आधार पर ये गजट आते हैं. गजट साफ बोलता है मंदिर गिराया मस्जिद बनाया, तो आप मान रहे हैं ना कि मंदिर गिरा के मस्जिद बनाया, आप देश का कानून मानते हैं. अब तो कोई डाउट ही नहीं रह गया, आप मानते हैं ब्रिजमोहन जी?
मेरा कहना ये ना देश का कानून नहीं, ये ऑब्जर्वेशन है गजेटियर में. देश का कानून तो अब डिसीजन देगा.
सर सरकारी गजेट क्या होता है?
अब डिसीजन हो.
आप तो सरकार में हैं महाराष्ट्र में, आपको पता होता है सरकारी गजेट क्या होता है.
बंधे हुए
ये तो कानूनन एक डॉक्यूमेंट है. सरकारी गजेट लीव्स नथिंग टू द इमेजिनेशन.
मैं कह रहा हूं कि
आप देश का कानून मानते हैं तो जो गजेट में लिखा है सरकारी गजेट में तो मानेंगे ना.
कि आज पर वो कानून तो नहीं है ना, वो एक ऑब्जर्वेशन है उस समय के लोगों का. आज जब चीज कोर्ट पे पहुंच गई है तो फैसला कौन करेगा, आप और मैं.
तो गजेट का क्या लीगल सैंक्टिटी क्या होती है ये बता दीजिए. एक गजेट की क्या लीगल सैंक्टिटी होती है?
तो उसको कोर्ट पे दीजिए ना
सर. गजेट की क्या लीगल सैंक्टिटी होती है?
मामला कोर्ट पे पहुंच गया तो वहां पे पेश करें ना.
Okay, Rizwan Ahmed wants to come in, then I'll go to Danish Qureshi. Yes, Rizwan Ahmed, आप देश के कानून को मानते हैं, पर देश के कानून के तहत बनी सरकार अपने ऑफिशियल दस्तावेज में फॉर पोस्टेरिटी जो लिख के रखती है वो आप नहीं मानेंगे. रिजवान अहमद, यस.
पद्मजा, अजीब अजीब आर्गुमेंट हो रहा है। सेंट्रल विस्टा प्रोजेक्ट आया था, पूरे ऑपोजिशन ने हिंदुस्तान सर पे उठा लिया, मैटर रीच द कोर्ट। आज ने बनारस के सबको मंदिर याद आ रहे हैं। अरे भाई, तब हिंदुस्तान सर पे क्यों नहीं उठाया कि नरेंद्र मोदी मंदिर तोड़ रहे हैं? नंबर 1। नंबर 2, आप लोग आर्गुमेंट बीइंग अ हिंदू, अरे डोंट माइंड, आई एम अ मुस्लिम एंड आई एम टेलिंग यू दिस, आपको बुरा लगेगा। एक जगह मंदिर हटा के मंदिर बनाया गया और एक जगह मंदिर हटा के मस्जिद बनाई गई। आपके हिसाब से ये दोनों सिचुएशन सेम है? इन दोनों सिचुएशन में फैक्चुअल, रिलीजियस, सोशल, कल्चरल कोई फर्क नहीं है। यू आर इक्वेटिंग बोथ द थिंग्स। आप ऐसे कंपैरिजन कर भी कैसे सकते हैं? तीसरी बात, somebody was saying कि इससे पहले तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी। पद्मजा, if there was no problem before this, तो 1992 में पूजा क्यों बंद करवाई? 365 दिन होती थी, एक दिन क्यों करवाई? If there was no problem, तो at the first place 1991 Places of Worship Act आया ही क्यों? अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी 1990s में। यार आप लोग बात अजीब करते हैं, इतने सीनियर पॉलिटिशियन हैं।
That was not an individual decision. Don't try to give misguided.
अरे तो इसका मतलब प्रॉब्लम थी, इसका मतलब प्रॉब्लम थी, अरे इसका मतलब प्रॉब्लम थी, इसका मतलब प्रॉब्लम थी।
Please, but you cannot blame the political system for it.
Sir, who else to blame? Who else to blame? Did you actually, and here's a thought, did you actually realize that if people are allowed to go to court with a legitimate claim, armed with this kind of proof, you could actually be in great trouble? You could actually be in great trouble if people went to court.
पद्मजा जी, अभी आपने इसी डिबेट में मुझे PIL सुनाई थी कि आप PIL में क्यों नहीं गए? आप क्या मुझे इलीगल काम करने के लिए बोल रही थी? आप भी तो मुझे यही कह रही थी कि एक लीगल राइट के लिए आपको PIL लगाना चाहिए।
सर, पर प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट आपको रोकता है कि आप कोर्ट जा ही नहीं सकते। एंड दैट इज माय क्वेश्चन, दानिश कुरैशी, क्या प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट इसलिए लाया गया टू प्रीएम्प्ट? क्योंकि सबूत साफ था, सबूत ऐतिहासिक भी है, सबूत सरकारी भी है, सबूत वर्बल है और सबूत लोगों ने आंखों से देखा है। तो शायद सरकार को पता था कि सबूत इतना मुस्तैद है, इतना सॉलिड है कि अगर प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट नहीं लाया गया, देन परहैप्स पीपल विल गो टू कोर्ट एंड मे इवन विन। दानिश कुरैशी।
ओके, अब एक मिनट के लिए समझ लीजिए। सबसे पहले तो मैं शुरू यहां से करूंगा, एन आई फॉर एन आई मेक्स द होल वर्ल्ड ब्लाइंड। दूसरे नंबर की बात कि प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट इसीलिए लाया गया कि देश का कम्युनल हार्मनी स्ट्रक्चर जो है वो डिस्टर्ब ना हो, जो बाबरी मस्जिद के जजमेंट में बिल्कुल क्लियरली सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इंडिकेट किया। तीसरे नंबर की बात, यहां इतने बड़े बड़े महान ज्ञानी जो बैठ रहे हैं ना, बार बार कोर्ट की बात कर रहे हैं, तो मेरे उनसे दो सवाल है। सबसे पहली बात आप ये बता दीजिए,
मैं आपको 2 सेकंड के लिए रोकना चाहूंगी। आई फाइंड दिस आर्ग्यूमेंट ऑफ प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट इसलिए लाया गया क्योंकि हार्मनी बनी रहे। दिस इज लाइक सेइंग कि एक्स ने जाके वाई को थप्पड़ मार दिया और फिर वाई के हाथ बांध दिए ताकि कम्युनल हार्मनी बनी रहे। कि मैंने जाके थप्पड़ मार दिया, फिर मैंने उसके हाथ बांध दिए, कहा कि चलो अब तुम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, इससे हार्मनी बनी रहेगी। भाई वाई तो वहां पड़ा रहेगा ना, उसको थप्पड़ भी लग गया, अब वाई बैठा हुआ है क्योंकि वाई के पास कोई हक ही नहीं है कि वो कुछ कर नहीं सकता।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जो लाइन थी वो ये थी कि प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट 1991 विल बी द बेसिक इंस्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। ऐसा बिल्कुल साफ था। मतलब इसका ये है कि जो लोग
सर आपने आधी अधूरी रिवीजन की है शायद इसलिए क्योंकि आप अभी भी जेल से बाहर आए हैं। दैट बीइंग सेड, जिस जज ने प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट के बारे में बोला था, जस्टिस चंद्रचूड़, उन्होंने ही कहा दैट प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट डज नॉट स्टॉप यू फ्रॉम असर्टेनिंग द नेचर ऑफ द कैरेक्टर, the character of the place of worship. That being said, छोड़िए, अभी ये places of worship act वाली चीज बहुत पुरानी हो गई है। Let me quote to you what British traveler Peter Mundy said about Gyanvapi. आपको सरकार की नहीं पड़ी है, आप चलिए, आप एक historian की बात सुनिए। British traveler Peter Mundy in his book said that I traveled to Banaras during the time of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. It is a land of Kshatriyas, Brahmins and Banyas. Kashi Vishweshwar is the biggest temple of Mahadev and people come here from far and wide to worship. अगर पीटर मुंडी को वहां पे काशी विश्वेश्वर दिखाई दिया, अगर उनको वहां पर शिवलिंग दिखाई दिया, अगर कांग्रेस की सरकार को वहां पर ज्ञानवापी दिखाई दिया मंदिर, तो आज के दिन लोगों को क्यों नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है?
चेंज होने वाला नहीं है, तो फिर इस प्रोसेस का मतलब क्या है, मुझे ये बता दीजिए आप।
किस प्रोसेस
मुझे ये बताइए कि अगर नेचर और कैरेक्टर चेंज होने वाला नहीं है, तो फिर ये एंटायर प्रोसेस का मतलब क्या निकलेगा, बताइए आप।
चलिए बताइए, अगर आप नेचर ही चेंज करने नहीं वाले हैं गुरु प्रकाश, तो ये इतना जद्दोजहद क्यों की जा रही है?
नहीं, ये देखिए, एक तो अब पार्लियामेंट ने कोई लॉ बना दिया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कोई जजमेंट दे दिया, पार्लियामेंट में लॉ रिपील करने का भी प्रावधान है भाई। आप संविधान करते हो, संविधान को समझते नहीं हो। सुप्रीम कोर्ट अपने डिसीजन को रिविजिट भी करता है। नहीं, आप पहले आप सुनो भैया, आप सुनने का तो आप सुनने का धैर्य नहीं है क्या? दानिश जी, सुनने का धीरज नहीं है, चिल्लाना है तो चिल्लाइए, आप चिल्लाना है तो चिल्ला लीजिए, लेकिन आपको चिल्लाना, आपने बोला ना, आपने बोला मैं आपसे लड़ूंगा नहीं, मैं आपके मेरे
प्लीज दानिश जी से
बुलवा लीजिए आप,
दानिश जी को
मौका
छोड़ दीजिए।
अरे आप
अभी कानून
दानिश जी, आपने पूछा ना कि क्या करेंगे, अब उनको बता नहीं दीजिए क्या करेंगे, बताइए क्या करेंगे। प्लीज साइलेंस फॉर अ सेकंड। यस, क्या करेंगे? इनके संस्कार हैं, लेकिन इनको बताना चाहता हूं, देश में शरिया नहीं है, देश में लोकतंत्र है। बोलना है तो सुनना भी सीखो, इस देश में लोकतंत्र है, देश संविधान से चलेगा, देश शरिया से नहीं चलेगा। डराते हो क्या? डराना बंद करो आप।
लागू नहीं है।
अगर कोई कानून बना है तो कानून रिपील भी होगा। मैंने आप सुनो बात, आप नहीं, शांति से सुनो अभी आप बात। आप दूसरे को बोलने नहीं देने देते हो। नहीं, मौका नहीं है क्या? फिर बोल रहे हो आप, चिल्ला रहे हो।
ओके, गो ऑन, मेक योर पॉइंट गुरु प्रकाश। यस,
और देश संविधान से चलेगा, देश शरिया से नहीं चलेगा। नो, व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ बिहेवियर इज दिस? You don't want to listen to anyone else. The Places of Worship Act, like has been mentioned before, it can be repealed. We have repealed more than 1,500 laws in the last 8 years, the old colonial laws. If the time and the circumstances demand, this law will be repealed as well. This law is nothing but an expression of the minority appeasement behavior of the Congress party. Okay. We have done our resistance bit before and we'll do it again. But you cannot hide behind this argument of Places of Worship Act. That's something which is very clear. Okay. You cannot have selective faith in the Constitution. You cannot have selective faith in the judicial process of the country.
All right, I'm going to leave it at that. The thing is that what is the character of Kashi Vishwanath of Gyanvapi? This is an argument that has been made by devotees over time, and that is the bedrock of their appeal, that we know our God sits here, now we want access. The survey report is there, historical reports are there, and now you have, ironically, evidence provided by a past Congress government. Does that leave any doubt? Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining me. Now, the Prime Minister today concluded his visit to Japan for the Quad Summit. It made headlines for various reasons, from deaf diplomacy to defining images. The most one, of course, was this picture of the Prime Minister with other heads of state from Quad countries. This was hailed by the BJP as symbolic of India standing in the world today, a Vishwa Guru and a first among equals. But the endorsement for India came also from US President Joe Biden and other heads of Quad nations. According to sources, during a closed-door session, Biden praised the Prime Minister for successful handling of the COVID pandemic. In fact, he drew a parallel between how China had functioned and how India had functioned during COVID, underlining that democracies like India work. That is their biggest strength, and autocracies ultimately fail. It's interesting that even as a democratic India was being hailed in Tokyo, on the other side of the world in Cambridge, Rahul Gandhi drew up a very dismal picture of how democracy is faring back home, pretty much saying that the idea of India is in trouble and democracy, yes, it's dead.
You quoted Article 1 of the Constitution saying India, that is Bharat, is a union of states, as per the Constitution. But if you turn a page back and look at the preamble, it does mention that India is a nation. Bharat itself is one of the oldest surviving civilizations of the world. And the term finds its origin in the Vedas. So we have a really old civilization. So Chanakya, even Chanakya, when he interacted with his students in Takshashila, he made it clear to them that they might belong to different Mahajanpads, but ultimately they belong to a nation that is Bharat. Adi Shankaracharya, he said, 10 seconds. One second. Did he use the word nation? He said, you belong to a Rashtra. Rashtra is, the Sanskrit. Rashtra is kingdom. Rashtra, no, it's a Sanskrit name for a nation. So nation is the word nation, right, is a Western concept. So I'm.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Okay, Dr. Sumansi Raman, political analyst, joins us along with Kuntal Krishna, also political analyst. Mr. Chaudhary continues with us, as does Guru Prakash, to who I want to ask the first question. Many would argue that perhaps Joe Biden has a more rosy idea of Indian democracy, unlike Mr. Gandhi, because he doesn't stay in India, Guru Prakash. Mr. Gandhi sees firsthand what a dark hellhole it is.
No, Padmaja, we must have a very strong perspective on this. Whenever a Congress leader is on a foreign soil, and this has happened before, this is not happening for the first time, whether it's Mr. Manishankar Iyer, Shashi Tharoor, Salman Khurshid, they have gone to the foreign soil and have questioned the credibility of our democracy. They have questioned the credibility of our elections. So this is not anything new. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has zero understanding of India. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has zero understanding of democracy. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has zero understanding of our culture, civilization and history. And that's the reason the people of Amethi have shown him the real result. What has happened today in the hall of Cambridge is nothing but deplorable. One gentleman from the audience has shown him the mirror, and Mr. Rahul Gandhi should apologize to the entire nation for that disservice which he has done.
Okay, Dr. Sumansi Raman, apology?
That photograph that you are putting out from Quad of people being led down, they're all being led down. So that's a little, strange that you would use that photograph to show, some particular positive feature. But jokes apart, the point is Rahul Gandhi has made several strong points. He is talking about the issues that democracy faces in India, and he is talking about issues of federalism and cooperative federalism, which is what binds the states and the center. So I think that he's making many valid points.
Sir, because, so let me actually quote to you what Mr. Gandhi said. Mr. Gandhi said that Mr. Modi runs a country which excludes several people, and it's not something that I accept. He also said that the very idea of India is under a cloud. Now, either people like Mr. Biden have a very different idea of what a country should be like, or they are looking at two very different Indias. Dr. Raman.
No, I think first of all, somebody should send the WHO report to President Biden. Perhaps he's not aware of the WHO report on the 47 lakh COVID deaths in India that the report actually spoke about. So maybe he's unaware of it. It is quite possible
or
that
maybe,
he may have
maybe the WHO, through its faulty modeling, which has been called out by the health minister yesterday, has got it completely wrong.
No other country.
Sir, you do know that all the health ministers of our country, including those from Congress-run states, have deplored the WHO report and called it a wrong modeling. Because essentially what the WHO report says, that it's not just the BJP government at the center, but all the state governments who have also underreported and misreported COVID deaths, including Congress-ruled states.
Including Congress-ruled states, including communist states, including AAP-ruled states, there has been underreporting.
So basically you are saying health ministers of our entire country are idiots. Our union health minister is an idiot. Joe Biden is an idiot. But it's only Mr. Gandhi and the WHO who knows what actually happened inside our country.
WHO has put out numbers of estimated deaths for 100+ countries around the world.
Sir, today literally you had the President of the United States say that if there is one country that shows how a pandemic should be democratically handled, it is India. He held up India's handling of the pandemic as an example to the world.
That is why I said probably he is unaware of this report. Maybe he is not ready.
Guru Prakash.
But Padmaja,
maybe he is unaware.
No.
Maybe he is unaware. Go on.
Country has objected to the report.
Maybe you should tweet the report at him, Dr. Aman.
Yeah, sir. No. So Joseph Biden, the president, is unaware. Who is aware, sir? WHO. The question has been raised on the role of WHO in the entire pandemic. And the gentleman was also talking about cooperative federalism. What is the definition of cooperative federalism? Dismissing state government left, right and center. Dismissing the chief minister of a state just because he did not come at the airport to receive you. I can give you 1,000 such examples when you have curbed the state autonomy in the name of federalism. So please stop lecturing us in the name of federalism about exclusion of people. For the first time, we are seeing such a strong prime minister from an OBC community. This has not happened in your party. This has not happened in your government. Point by point, I can give you rebuttal and you will not stand not any ground. This is something which is very impractical. What is Mr. Rahul Gandhi doing on a foreign soil? And you are questioning on, and you are basing your report on the basis of WHO? What sort of argument is this? This is simply very foolish when you are suggesting
scientifically
on the basis of data it has been proven. Our people, our doctors, our health ministers have shown that. So Joe Biden is wrong. Joe Biden is mistaken. The president of United States of America is mistaken. But Mr. Rahul Gandhi is right. How, from where do you get all this moral courage?
And speaking of mistaken, just FYI, because now we are saying that Mr. Gandhi has a better understanding of, what's actually going on in India, as opposed to all of Indian ministers and the government of India and perhaps even the US president. Incidentally, Kuntal Krishna, today Mr. Gandhi, and could be a perfectly honest mistake, he said that Rashtra means kingdom.
Padmaja.
Yes, Mr. Krishna.
Hello. Yeah, Padmaja, let me tell you, while we were discussing these things, my friend from BJP and who gets his dictates from RSS, he was very, very clear in his words, and he spelled himself that how RSS and BJP is excluding many people in this country. He used the term a prime minister from OBC community. So from here itself starts the exclusion. Again, in India right now we are almost going at the verge of almost dictatorship. Our constitution is in trouble, and Mr. Guru, I was not disturbing you, na? Please have some patience. Please have some patience. You have got a lot of questions to answer. When Mr. Guru Prakash was talking about an elected member of parliament, and he said that he does not know anything about country. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is an elected member of parliament. So this is how this country is being run, and this is all because of dictate of RSS. What we saw today, and I must tell you, Rahul Gandhi has got courage to speak out the truth, and whole of the machinery is hell-bent upon defaming and maligning images of those people who are standing in the way of this whole turning out of democracy into a dictatorship.
Mr. Krishna,
so this government,
nobody is at all saying that Mr. Gandhi is uninformed, but maybe the information did not reach him when he reacted to the WHO COVID deaths report, and I said, figures do not lie. The Narendra Modi government does.
I'm sorry.
No, he said, just a second. He says, science does not lie. Prime Minister Narendra Modi does. But when he made this comment, perhaps he did not know that the health ministers of states where his party is in government, including Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, has also called the WHO report absolute bunkum. But he thought it the gospel, but nobody is at all saying that he is ill-informed. Let Guru Prakash respond to that point you raised about being exclusionist. Guru Prakash, yes.
No, Padmaja, on your show itself, my learned friend Guru Prakash said this.
Okay, I'm taking his answer on that. Why are you exclusionary when you are talking about an OBC Prime Minister? Yes, go on, Guru Prakash.
See, my friend Kuntal Krishna is much more informed than Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Let me put this on record on your show tonight. I want Mr. Kuntal Krishna to go and represent India at any conference in London or anywhere in the world. He would be much better than Mr. Rahul Gandhi. The concept Rashtra, it is mentioned in Vedas, it is mentioned in Upanishads, but he is not aware of it. He is saying anything that comes to his mind. This morning, I woke up at night, Alu Dalo Sona Niklega, the nation has seen. The nation has seen how he has evolved since 2004. So we completely sympathize with you that you have got a leader who is so... I have no words for him, but we understand that you have a very difficult job of defending Mr. Rahul Gandhi. People of Amethi have shown him the door.
Mr.
We have
Krishna.
seen what is happening. But the problem starts when you go on a foreign soil, when you go to a prestigious university and fall in this trap of breaking India forces.
Yes,
You
Mr.
are
Krishna.
falling in this trap of breaking India forces. You are making this anti-India alliance.
Okay, jokes aside, this is a serious charge that you use a platform abroad to malign the country. Kuntal Krishna.
Padmaja, it is a very, very clear-cut propaganda strategy dictated by RSS to discredit and malign any public image of anyone who is a potential threat to this dictatorship.
But it's not like the RSS wrote Mr. Gandhi's speech, sir.
Mr. Guru Prakash is saying tomorrow.
It's not like Guru Prakash was whispering in his ears कि राष्ट्र का मतलब kingdom होता है.
Padmaja, and for God's sake, please, for God's sake, when Mr. Gandhi is talking about political system, he is only talking about political system. He has got all the respect for his country. Please, why only Mr. Gandhi? Why whole of the establishment is behind him? He goes to some place.
Nobody is
behind
him.
That he is hobnobbing with some Chinese premier. He goes to some.
This is a speech that he made on his own,
by
sir.
RSS to deviate this country for.
Okay, my simple question to you is that there has to be. Okay, Kuntal Krishna, let's get serious for a second. There has to be some reason that people across the world, and these are heads of state, Australia, Japan, United States, all sit today and say during the pandemic, India did a bang-up job. You gave vaccines to other countries, you managed to handle the pandemic, democracy is functioning robustly in India. This is an example of how a democracy should be, as opposed to a Russia or a China. And then you have our leader of opposition, or our former prominent leader of opposition, saying, sorry, none of you know anything, India is going down the pipe. There has to be a reason, right? Entire world on one side and one party on one side. Qamar Zaman Chaudhary.
Well, Padmaja, if you forget to, as we all know, public memory is very short. Have you forgotten the thousands of people dying because of lack of oxygen during the COVID times? Have you forgotten the photos? Even if Danish Qureshi would not have published those photos, we would not have known that how many bodies were floating in the Ganga. And you speak of a megalomaniac who seems to be handling the COVID crisis in such a wonderful way. I am very surprised at your journalism.
I don't speak. It is literally Japan,
you have
Australia,
to speak truth
and
to
America
power.
who said it.
Your duty is to speak truth to power. No, you do not believe the WHO, a Union of Nations.
WHO.
You do not believe in the Vandam report. You do not believe in those reports which says that India has gone down on the global hunger index. You do not believe in those reports which says that.
I will not contradict you, sir. Otherwise, I will be accused of not speaking truth to power.
After the
All right.
demonetization.
Final comment, Guru Prakash. In the end, it always can be argued that as a leader of opposition, he is going out there, he has a point of view, the whole world may be on one side, but that is what the opposition does. Speak truth to power.
He has a point of view, he is entitled to his point of view, he has right to be having some perspective, but Qamar Zaman Chaudhary ji, I hope you have taken the 2 doses of vaccine, and probably you have taken the 3rd booster dose as well. Sir, it was possible only in a country where Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister. your leaders were constantly raising question mark on the vaccine. It was only because of the robust vaccination program that India was worst hit in the third wave and the fourth wave. So let me make this sufficiently clear. Be it Mr. Joe Biden, be it the people of India are solidly standing behind the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, because they have seen that only because of the vaccination, only because of the safety, only because of the security, we were not able to secure lives of people in India, but also beyond India. अगर लोगों को दवाई की जरूरत पड़ी, then people were there as well.
Okay.
If you cannot listen to it, I know that you have faith in Sharia. आपको शरिया में आपको मानते हो, लेकिन आपको वैक्सीन का डोज पड़ा है तो भाजपा के कारण पड़ा है, नरेंद्र मोदी के कारण पड़ा है, स्वीकार करो इस बात को.
Okay, let's just leave it at that. Even if we don't have to believe either person, both the President of the United States and the former President of the Congress Party have a point of view. The good thing though is, so does each and every voter and citizen of India. Nobody is being fooled. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining me.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break. Times now. Action begins here.
क्या पूछूं आपसे कि आपका जो स्टे था कांग्रेस पार्टी में, ये शॉर्ट एंड स्वीट था कि?
You're watching the News Hour at 10.
President Sonia Gandhi has constituted Political Affairs Group Task Force 2024 and Central Planning Group for Bharat Jodo Yatra. Ghulam Nabi Azad, Anand Sharma have been named as part of the group. Punjab Health Minister Vijay Singla has been arrested by the anti-corruption branch following corruption allegations against him. Before his arrest, he was sacked by Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann from the cabinet. In a major development, the ED conducted fresh raids across 6 locations in Jharkhand and Bihar. The raids were in connection with the illegal mining case, relating to which the ED had arrested suspended IAS officer Pooja Singhal.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break. Times now. Action begins here.
For the last 2 years, the world has been relentlessly fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. As the countries across the globe prioritize vaccinations to keep the next wave of COVID at bay, India also rolled out precautionary jabs this year to achieve herd immunity against the virus. While COVID has not risen substantially in India in the last few months, the pandemic has not yet faded. India has remained on guard, but vaccination among children remains low and is significantly less talked about.
Immunizing the kids will not only check the spread of the asymptomatic infections, who can act as silent hosts for the virus.
You're watching the News Hour at 10. Times now. Action begins here.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News Now Overnight with me, Priya Bahel, your one-stop shop destination for everything that you may not have managed to catch up on through the course of a hectic weekday in your life. What happens today in the world? How will it impact your life? What really was it that changed the geography, economy and politics of the world, even the world of sports? We get you all the details. First up, let's take a look at the stories that made headlines through the day. United States President praises Indian PM for democratic handling of COVID, says his success proves democracies can deliver, slams leadership of autocracies like China and Russia. All Quad allies shower praise on Prime Minister for his leadership skills, but Rahul Gandhi's criticism continues unabated. Speaking at Cambridge, Congress MP says Prime Minister's vision is not inclusive and against the idea of India. BJP puts out a picture of Rahul Gandhi in London with known India baiter Jeremy Corbyn. Asks, why stand with a man who backs separatists on Kashmir issue? Congress counters with another picture. It's time for reality check for Rahul Gandhi in London. Civil servant studying in Cambridge confronts him on his comment calling India a union of states. Says it's wrong and disruptive. Quad nations warn China against repeating